Chapter 16:21. Overestimating Yourself. Wolf Saint Dharma snorted coldly as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. Following that, he raised his palm and struck out with a palm strike. Devil class students sensed the danger. They could only give up on chasing the remaining 6 elders and evaded. That palm strike seemed to have broken the void, shaking the heaven and earth. After it landed on the ground, it caused the entire flame nest to tremble. The ground, which had already turned into ruins, was like a spider web, with countless cracks densely packed together. A loud boom sound was heard. The ground cracked and gravel flew everywhere. Devil class students evaded in a disheveled manner, and some even fell into the cracks. Luckily, Yi Ching Luo had taught them that set of footwork, which allowed Devil class students to avoid the danger. After the surrounding tremors had subsided, Devil class students stabilized themselves. Those 6 elders had long hidden behind Wolf Saint Dharma. Following that, they sat down cross-legged and continued to cast their spells, activating the 2 formations forbidden spells once again. Devil class students, go against the Dark Guardians. Yi Ching Luo also noticed the movements over there. With the appearance of Wolf Saint Dharma, Devil class students couldn't even think of getting close to those 6 elders. With the death of 4 elders, the formation's speed had slowed down by half. The person who was guarding the elders was Wolf Saint Dharma. Devil class students' current ability was not enough to go against Wolf Saint Dharma. Why not use these 130 over Dark Guardians for this bunch of youngsters to practice on? Hearing Yi Ching Luo's command, those Devil class students who had adjusted their formation and were preparing to attack Wolf Saint Dharma almost reflexively moved towards Yi Ching Luo's direction. 50 over people attacked those 130 Dark Guardians in an orderly manner. After Yi Ching Luo and Long Yunzhan got away, then they all attacked towards Wolf Saint Dharma's direction. This coordination, simply amazing. All the students from various academies were sighing in their hearts. The performance of Devil class students had completely refreshed their understanding of Devil class. The heroic spirit in their hearts was ignited at this moment. One by one, they perked up their spirits and became more serious in dealing with this batch of Dark Guardians. Sky Profound first-grade cultivator, dare to challenge this Saint Dharma. Wolf Saint Dharma sneered as he squinted his malicious eyes. No matter how fast Yi Ching Luo's advancement was. Even so, he was no match for him. The wolf's sacred beast tightened its grip around the woman in its arms and leaped into the air. The wind from his palm moved like 10,000 layers of wind and waves, directly attacking. Yi Ching Luo's expression was calm as she waved her glower flame fan and opened it abruptly, blocking that palm wind. The powerful, profound qi transformed into a bewitching red glow, forming a beautiful cold lake in midair. In that instant, the air was ignited. A sizzling sound could be heard. Boom! The sound of the collision between the qi and the palm wind shook heaven and earth. Soon after, a greenish-white figure broke through the air from the force. Thousands of strands of hair fluttered on her shoulders. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more enchanting and moving. The gourd flame fan in her hand flickered with one complicated, profound light after another. Her red lips curled into a smile. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to have lost all its brilliance. There was only one person in the world that could be seen. Wolf Saint Technique. If you don't try, how would you know the final result? Yi Ching Luo smiled sweetly. The moment her words landed, the expression on her face suddenly turned solemn. Her footwork was displayed. She had already overtaken the direction of Wolf Saint Technique. Long Yunzhan immediately coordinated with Yi Ching Luo's footwork from the other side. Chapter 16:22. Wolf Saint Dharma was carrying Yi Ching Qian in his arms. Naturally, he was unable to exert his full strength. Facing Yi Ching Luo and Long Yunzhan's encirclement, it was somewhat difficult to deal with. Yi Ching Luo and Long Yunzhan's coordination was extremely tacit, totally not giving Wolf Saint Dharma any breathing space. The Dark Ones present whether it was guardians or elders, were not from his Wolf Saint Dharma's forces. Wolf Saint Dharma was unable to hand the unconscious Yi Qing Qian over to the other guardians. Moreover, based on Yi Qing Luo's cunning character, if Wolf Saint Dharma released Yi Qing Qian, in the next moment, Yi Qing Qian would probably become Yi Qing Luo's bargaining chip to threaten Wolf Saint Dharma. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame lair had sunk into a chaotic battle. The stench of blood filled the skies. In the wooden shed, 4 instructors stood in front of the profound light mirror, staring at the image in the mirror. In the mirror, Ghost Doctor's calm voice was heard. "How is it? Have you found any traces of those students?" No. We've searched the entire blazing flame lair, but not a single student is seen." Instructor Ren answered anxiously. "Not only did we use the profound light mirror to search the surroundings of the blazing flame lair, I've also flipped the entire place with those people from the headquarters, but there's no trace of those students." Instructor Li's face was gloomy. The few instructors were all sweating profusely. All of them had an anxious and uneasy expression. "Continue searching," Ghost Doctor said coldly. "Yes." The 4 instructors responded and immediately assigned another 2 people to follow those people from the headquarters to continue searching the blazing flame lair. Near the interior of the blazing flame lair, a black and white silhouette were moving forward swiftly. "Ah Wu, the students wouldn't disappear for no reason. Could it be?" Zhou frowned, recalling the black aura he saw on the profound light mirror earlier. His frown grew even deeper. Ghost Marshall's eyes were filled with a cold glint. "Yes, it's an enchantment. It's indeed an enchantment." Zhou narrowed his long phoenix eyes. "But who can under our eyelids, under the enchantment of those old fellows in the headquarters, can conjure an enchantment that even you can't detect?" This point, no matter how Zhou thought, he couldn't understand. "Dark forces." Guiwu spat out these 4 words. Zomo's expression congealed slightly. Ever since the news of the dark forces infiltrating into Nirvana Realm, because of Yiqing Luo, everyone knew about it. Following that, the Imperial Palace kept on launching attacks against the dark forces and even destroyed a Saint Technique powerhouse. After a pause, he continued, "I'm afraid the dark forces are desperate. Send the news to the Imperial Palace." Guiwu pondered for a moment before he suddenly spoke. "Imperial Palace?" Zhou paused. "You mean, as long as that girl is here, Dizun will definitely come," Guiwu said in a low voice. Zhou pursed his thin lips and nodded. "If Dizun comes, the dark forces can indeed deal with them, but can those students hold on until that girl is there?" Guiwu lightly said. Zhou frowned as he looked at Guiwu with a somewhat strange gaze. After a while, Zhou came back to his senses. "She's just a little girl with a little luck. Why do you have so much confidence in her?" In his memories, Guiwu had never trusted a person's strength so much. Even for himself, he was constantly questioning and doubting his own abilities. Chapter 1623. Inside the Barrier. The students of the various academies had already succeeded in killing the Dark Ones. He then pounced forward to help the Devil class and the others to deal with the Dark Protectors. Because of this, Yin Xiao, Yi, and the others were able to extricate themselves and join Yiqing Luo and the others in the battle, resisting against the Wolf Saint Technique together. With a beauty in his arms, the Wolf Saint Technique felt strained. In particular, Yiqing Luo was extremely cunning, as she repeatedly attacked Yiqing Qian. Now that Yiqing Qian had fainted, she wouldn't be able to evade by herself. The Wolf Saint Law had to be very, very careful. Furthermore, after Yiqing Luo's attack on Yiqing Qian failed, she didn't stop. She once again passed through Lang Sheng Fa's attack range and directly released her profound energy in the direction of the 6 elders who were protecting Lang Sheng Fa. The 6 elders dodged in panic. Because of Yiqing Luo's harassment, he was unable to continue casting the incantation. As a result, Wolf Saint Dharma had to deal with Long Yunjian and the others' attacks. and to protect Yi Qing Qian from being hurt by Yi Qing Luo, and to protect those elders who had no battle ability. After a long time, the Wolf Saint technique was becoming more and more powerless. The situation began to change. The expression on Lang Xingfa's face grew increasingly gloomy. His actions became more and more ruthless. Every time they clashed, they would kill. But the group of students from Devil class were as slippery as loaches. He had no way of hurting them at all. On the contrary, there were several wounds on his body. When had the Wolf Saint technique ever suffered such humiliation? Lang Xingfa's expression was extremely gloomy. That vicious gaze seemed to want to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. Yi Qing Luo, who saw Wolf Saint technique's expression, curled her lips into a smile. I say, Wolf Saint technique, put down the person in your arms. If you don't save him, you can totally oppress us little cultivators. Wolf Saint magic tightened his arms and pulled Yi Qing Qian into his embrace. She looked as though she was afraid that Yi Qing Luo would suddenly make a move on Yi Qing Jian. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. TSK, this eldest sister of mine has racked her brains to get together with 2 generations of crown princes and ended up in such a miserable state. I didn't expect her to meet a man who treats her sincerely. How lucky she is. Her eyes were fixed on the expression on the Wolf Saint Dharma face. To tell the truth, Yi Qing Luo was unable to understand. How could someone like Lang Xingfa be so infatuated with a woman? From Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of pouncing onto Yi Qing Qian the moment they didn't get along with each other, Yi Qing really couldn't tell what kind of love this was. But looking at Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of protecting Yi Qing Qian, he would rather get injured than to protect her. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. What made Yi Qing Luo even more astonished was when she mentioned the 2 crown princes. The expression on Lang Xingfa's face did not change in the slightest. Could it be that Yi Qing Qian had already told Wolf Saint technique about her, Lung Feng Hua, and Lung Feng Ying's matters? Because of this, when he heard about Yi Qing Qian's old love, the Wolf Saint technique didn't feel anything? No, that was also impossible. If it was DMO Xian, if she would be slightly intimate with any man, DMO Xian's vinegar jar would be overturned. Even though Yi Qing Qian had told Wolf Saint Fa about her past. But when it came to old love, shouldn't a man's true reaction be some disgust or displeasure? Only, Yi Qing Luo didn't have the chance to think deeply. The sole of her feet seemed to be prodded by something. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she regained her senses and lowered her eyelids. She saw the dust billowing on the ground beneath her feet, slowly protruding out a sharp little corner. That little corner would occasionally lean towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Chapter 16:24. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. She lifted her foot and forcefully stepped on the small corner. Then he raised his eyes and stared at the Wolf Saint technique, who was obviously struggling. Her pink lips curled up slightly, and her figure flashed as she approached Long Yunjian. Already found it? Long Yunjian saw Yi Qing Luo's actions and immediately understood. Yi Qing Luo nodded. Should be. You go. I'll be here. Long Yunjian glanced at her indifferently, gripped the long sword in his hand, and charged at the Wolf Saint technique. Long Yunjian's sudden burst of powerful, profound energy immediately attracted the Wolf Sacred Technique's attention. When Wolf Saint Technique saw who it was, the expression on his face congealed as his malicious gaze shot towards Yi Qing Luo, who was not too far away. However, Long Yunjian didn't fully understand the meaning behind the Wolf Saint Technique's eyes. He had to attract all the attention of the Sacred Wolf Technique. Immediately, the thick qi surged again. His attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Brat! Wolf Saint Law dodged a few moves, staring at Long Yunjian's cold eyes, his face slightly darkening. This fierce shout did not make Long Yunjian stop his attacks. On the contrary, Long Yunjian's attacks increased. The Wolf Saint Law couldn't take it anymore and raised his palm to attack Long Yunjian. Long Yunjian was focused on attracting the Wolf Saint Technique's attention, so he didn't pay attention to anything else. But Yi Qing Luo saw it clearly. Wolf Saint Fa seemed to know Long Yunjian. Furthermore, Wolf Saint Fa had called him brat. Yi Qing Luo could tell that the Wolf Saint technique wasn't looking down on Long Yunjian, but it was similar to how a senior addressed a junior. Saint Wolf Art. Long Yunjian? No matter how he looked at it, these two people didn't look like they had any connections. Could it be, was that just her imagination? That sharp little horn beneath her feet pushed against Yi Qing Luo's feet a few more times. Yi Qing Luo restrained the wild thoughts in her heart as her footsteps flashed. Her petite figure quietly disappeared into the air. Not a single person noticed it. Just a moment later, Yi Qing Luo had already followed that sharp little horn beneath her feet as she appeared several tens of meters away from the battlefield. The surrounding trees had already fallen to the ground under the attack of the profound qi. It also happened to cover the petite figure of Mo Yuing. Yi Qing Luo walked over quickly and immediately bent down, hiding her figure behind the fallen trees. Shadow, have you found the array core? Mo Yuing looked at her expressionlessly. Rely on it. Raising his hand, he pointed to the side of Yi Qing Luo, that protruding little horn. The small horn was praised, and it arched its head on the ground. Then, an oval-shaped object crawled out from the ground. That little thing was round and bulging. After rolling on the ground, it landed at Mo Yuying's feet. The thing looked like an egg. It was about the size of 2 palms. When the egg reached Mo Yuying's feet, suddenly, a small thing popped out. Before Yi Qing Luo could take a closer look, on the other side of the egg, there was another thing. Then, another one popped out. After a while, another one came out of the jar. For slender and long things were waving about. Not long after, his form was revealed. That was hands and feet. An egg gave birth to hands and feet. That's right. It's me, the omnipotent strange beast. A devilish voice like a robot was heard from that egg. 2 small hands grabbed Mo Yuying's trousers, extremely proud. Little sister and I have found the array core. It's right here. This was a strange beast? The original body? Yi Qing Luo stared at this lump of egg-like creature, recalling that not long ago, deep in the stream, she saw that huge bloody mouth. Chapter 16:25. Destroy the array. The array is about to merge into one. Mo Yuing stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking as she spoke mechanically. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about the strange beast's body. She immediately looked towards the direction of Mo Yuying's finger. She saw a ball of flickering flame burning in midair where Mo Yuying was standing. If one didn't look carefully, it was impossible to detect this flame. And after looking at this flame, Yi Qing Luo was able to follow the flame and clearly see the array which was derived from the array eye. The range of the array enveloped the entire area of the fire nest. The array was extremely strange and complicated. Yi Qing Luo couldn't see through it with her naked eyes. And every single line of this array was filled with dense, profound yin qi. Only this profound yin qi didn't overlap the entire area, but it was concentrated to a third of the line. This was the soul assimilation array, an array which absorbed human souls. It was an extremely vicious type of dark incantation. Yi Qing Luo finally understood. Why did the dark forces need to take the extra step to set up an array which provided an endless supply of profound yin qi? This was because the soul assimilation formation required an endless supply of mystical yin qi to form. Yi Qing Luo saw it. These lines of the array were burning with a flickering flame at the 4 corners of this area. This flame, it was the array eye. As long as the flame wasn't extinguished, the array wouldn't be broken. 4 array eye flames. As long as they got rid of these 4 array eyes, this soul assimilation array would be completely destroyed, and they would have enough time to break through the dark force's power and leave this place alive. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. She raised her palm and struck towards the flame. Lass, stop. She suddenly heard Old Man Tsang's berating voice. Yi Qing Luo's hand suddenly stopped in midair. Old Man Tsang, what are you doing? Yi Qing Luo restrained her profound qi, this kind of stopping halfway. It's easy to go into chi deviation. If you hit this palm, then you will really go into chi deviation. Old Man Tsang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Qing Luo stopping in time. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. What do you mean? This is a dark curse. If you use your profound energy to directly destroy it, not only will you not be able to destroy the flames in the eye of the formation, it will also easily cause a backlash from the power of darkness. Old Man Tsang solemnly replied. Yi Qing Luo's hand immediately withdrew. Backlash? This array, there was actually a backlash? Then how should I destroy this array? Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows tightly. The blood of the one who cast the curse. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her expression turned ugly. I'm already here, and you're asking me to take the blood of the person who cast the curse. If she were to return to the Wolf Saint technique's side and forcefully attack the Elder, she would be able to obtain the Elder's blood. The Wolf Saint technique would definitely notice something amiss. By then, she might not have the chance to get close to the eye of the array. Don't you still have the help of that mutant beast? Yes. Let the strange beast pour the Dark Elder's blood onto the formation Eye Flame, and that will do. Yi Qing Luo snapped her fingers as her brows were filled with a smile. Mutated beasts could transform into anything in the world. They were using the mutated beasts to transport the blood of the Dark Elder. It was foolproof. Qing Luo, what idea have you thought of? A stiff and tense voice rang in her ears. Mo Ying tilted her head. Her lowly face was in a daze, without any expression. Chapter 16:26. Yi Qing Luo speedily retreated from this place. Her footwork was like a phantom as she speedily returned to the battlefield. In just a short period of time, Long Yunjian was still entangled with Wolf Saint technique. Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest were still harassing him, but it caused Wolf Saint technique to keep on retreating. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her footsteps moved. Her figure appeared behind Wolf Saint technique once again. The 6 elders who were continuously casting their spells, on seeing Yi Qing Luo, who was silently approaching them, their expressions all changed. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed. Following that, one of the elders stopped casting his spells, stood up, and took out a smoke bomb from his bosom. Before he could kick out, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled coldly as she raised her leg and kicked the smoke bomb in the elder's hand out. The smoke grenade drew a perfect arc in the air. Finally, under the rebound of the barrier, it landed on the ground not too far away. Following that, Yi Qing Luo had already stuck close to him. Her fingers moved, and the glower flame fan flipped in her palm. A sharp dagger shot out from the fan handle, sticking on that elder's neck. The elder's face turned steely green. Before he could say a word, he stopped breathing. After taking an elder's blood, Wolf Saint technique had already reacted, and a burst of dense, profound qi directly shot towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo had already taken the elder's blood and threw the elder's corpse towards the profound qi. Her figure swiftly retreated, only to see that corpse under the impact of the profound qi. It suddenly split into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere as the air was filled with a thick stench of blood. Yi Qing Luo quietly placed the blood in her hand by her feet. The strange beast which had transformed into the ground silently sent that blood to Mo Ying's side. The elder's blood poured onto the array's flame. That flame was suddenly extinguished. The surrounding array, as well as the lingering profound yin qi, became extremely messy. There were only 3 array core flames left. Yi Qing Luo's gaze looked towards the elders who were fleeing in all directions not too far away. Her eyes turned slightly cold. Qing Luo, be careful. She suddenly heard Long Yunjian scream. Yi Qing Luo's body reflexively dodged to the side, not knowing when Wolf Saint technique had broken through Long Yunjian and the others' encirclement, charging right in front of Yi Qing Luo. I've underestimated you. The Wolf Saint Law's expression was extremely gloomy. His sinister eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she revealed a sweet smile. Aren't you surprised? This was obviously a provocation to the Wolf Saint technique. Wolf Saint Law could never have imagined it. Yi Ching Luo was actually able to find the array core under such circumstances. Furthermore, he had destroyed the eye of the formation. It was a way to destroy the dark spell. It was impossible for ordinary people to know about it. It was impossible for anyone in the entire Nirvana realm to know about this. How could Yi Ching Luo possibly know? The reason why Yi Ching Qian had such great confidence in the success of this array was because of this. The dark forces did not go out of their way to protect the formation core. That was because the formation eye of this darkness formation could not be destroyed at all. Even if Yi Ching Luo really found the array core, forcefully destroy it with profound qi, he would be devoured by the dark energy at any moment. But Yi Ching Luo had successfully destroyed a formation eye. As a result, the formation of the soul assimilation formation was obstructed once more. Impossible. How could Yi Ching Luo possibly know the method to destroy the dark array? Could it be there is someone from the lower realm beside Yi Ching Luo helping her? Little slut, I'm going to kill you. Wolf Saint Law realized the seriousness of the matter if he continued to underestimate the enemy. Chapter 16:27. Yi Ching Luo's lips curled slightly, curving into a sinister arc's slender jade-like hands, holding the glower flame fan, shot out a bewitching red glow. Profound light surged, encircling the glower flame fan surroundings. Her footwork continued to change her position. Only an afterimage could be seen with the naked eye. The speed was so fast that it was impossible to capture. The profound qi in her hands was fluctuating like an excited, bewitching flame, sparkling with a dazzling brilliance. Wolf Saint Dharma sensed the power of that burst of energy. The expression on his face suddenly turned black. A ball of profound yin qi was released from his surroundings. Wolf Saint Dharma's figure swiftly retreated several steps. This retreat, Wolf Saint Dharma regretted. The profound qi shot out by Yi Ching Luo's glower flame fan was not targeted at him. But at the moment when Wolf Saint Dharma retreated, straight to the side, looking for a safe direction to continue to cast the spell, to maintain the spirit assimilating array towards the elder, only to see that bewitching red glow in midair split open a series of red electric current ripples, as though it was tearing out a crack. Bam! The profound light landed among the elders, directly hitting one of the elders' head. Instantly, that elder did not even have the chance to make a sound, as he fell limply onto the ground. Another boom sound was heard. The residual force of the burst of the mystic light sent a few elders flying away. The elders cried out miserably. Yi Ching Luo. Wolf Saint Dharma's expression was gloomy as he mustered up his energy, compared to the last time when they were besieging each other in the underground room. And now, it was not even a month's time. The young lady who was like an ant in his hands then. In such a short period of time, she had already grown to such a stage. Originally, he thought, close to these dark people, the Dark Protectors, would definitely be able to complete today's plan. He had not expected. Yi Ching Luo really had the heaven-defying ability. If you don't let go of the person in your arms, these elders. Yi Ching Luo's sly brows were peerless. She looked meaningfully at Yi Ching Qian, who was in Wolf Saint Dharma's arms. Her curved brows revealed an obvious ridicule. At the same time, the blood of that elder who had his head exploded. Under the silent transportation of the mutant beast, Wang Chong and the others were also silently transported. They arrived at the second fiery array core. Mo Yuing, who had an extremely low sense of existence. On top of that, there was a mutated beast that could transform into anything in the world. Such a combination. It was too easy to do this kind of sneaky thing. When the second flame incantation was extinguished by the elder's blood, the area that was surrounded by the formation suddenly caved in a little. The soul assimilating array that he had painstakingly linked up with the soul assimilating array also broke in an instant. The expressions of the remaining four elders changed drastically. Holy wolf technique. We can't extinguish the flame formation eye anymore. Otherwise, We won't be able to complete the soul-absorbing array, even if we work until tomorrow. There were still 2 fiery formation cores left. It was the final support of the soul assimilation array. Once another fire formation was destroyed, the soul assimilating array would be completely destroyed, especially since there were only 4 elders left who could cast the curse. This was the first time the Wolf Saint technique had ever felt a sense of predicament. His sinister eyes swept across the Dark Protectors and Dark Ones. The ground was littered with corpses, most of which belonged to the Dark Ones. And the casualties of the students of the various academies were actually less than half of the Dark Ones. The Dark Guardians were surrounded by the students. They had no time to rush over to protect those elders. Wolf Saint technique looked at Yi Qian, who was in his arms, as the rage in his heart burned. He wanted to let go of Yi Qian. Chapter 16:28. The elder's terrified voice rang beside his ears. In front of him was Yi Luo's complacent smile. The anger in Wolf Saint Magic's heart burned even more vigorously. However, the current situation had been completely reversed. The various academies had completely gained the upper hand. Obviously, just a little bit more, they would be able to successfully set up the spirit assimilation array, offering these 1,000 over young, clean souls to the Lord. The Lord's seal would then be lifted in advance. But, Wolf Saint Magic's sharp gaze stared coldly at Yi Luo's direction. His fingers clenched tightly. The dark forces had already emptied their minds and spent a huge amount of manpower and resources for this plan. The spirit assimilation array must succeed. These students' souls must all become the Lord's food. Looks like they could only use their trump card in advance. Thinking of this, Wolf Saint Magic hugged the lady in his arms tightly as he speedily took a step back, under the situation where no one could see. His sharp nails scratched his palm. A drop of blood slowly formed. Following that, it dripped onto the ground. Yi Luo squinted her eyes as her vision locked onto Wolf Saint Magic's actions. Seeing him retreat from the battlefield, Yi Luo's heart trembled slightly as she raised her guard. After waiting for some time, Wolf Saint Magic stood outside the crowd, not knowing what he was waiting for. Yi Luo's gaze swept past those elders whose faces were filled with fear as they looked around. Inside the metal, there was a reminder. She slowly walked towards the direction of the elders. Wolf Saint Magic's action was absolutely not, because he was out of stamina and wanted to delay time to recuperate. But there was a bigger conspiracy. Rather than waiting on the same spot uneasily, why not take the initiative to attack? Yi Luo had never planned to passively accept unknown danger. She liked to be in control and turn passivity into initiative. Silently, Yi Luo had already stuck close to an elder's side. That elder raised his finger in terror as he muttered a strange incantation. His footsteps immediately moved towards Wolf Saint Magic's direction to seek protection. But the elder's incantation was not in time. Yi Luo's fist had already landed on the elder's face. He had successfully shut up the elder's muttering incantation. Yi Luo's peripheral vision had always been paying attention to the direction of the Wolf Saint technique. Seeing that Wolf Saint Dharma was still standing in the same spot, looking down at Yi Qian in his arms. But Yi Luo could clearly feel the cold intent reflected in Wolf Saint Fa's malicious gaze. She frowned slightly. What the hell was the Wolf Saint technique doing? Could it be that he had really given up on resisting? This was not in line with the Wolf Saint technique's temperament. Thinking back to Yi Qian's confident and proud expression earlier, Yi Luo's heart suddenly had an uneasy premonition. Why do I feel like she seemed to have missed something crucial? Yi Luo hesitated. The Dark Elder took the opportunity to roll on the ground, fleeing to the side of the other 3 elders. Seeing such a situation, the Wolf Saint Lost slowly raised his head. The cold, mocking smile in his eyes and the curve of his lips gradually deepened. Yi Luo's heart tightened. Something was definitely wrong. She had to speed up and destroy the core of the fire array. The thought flashed past her mind, and Yi Luo's footsteps didn't hesitate any further as she took quick steps towards the direction of the Dark Elder. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly shone with a profound light. Wave after wave of mysterious light rippled in the air, gradually lingering in the surroundings and spreading out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chapter 16:29. That elder cried out in shock. His body had already been torn into pieces by the incomparably sharp silver threads. Blood splattered. Flesh and blood splattered. That scene was extremely bloody. Many students present had never experienced a real massacre. The students of the various academies were busy dealing with Elder Hay, but when they saw this scene, their faces all turned pale. Especially when they saw Yi Qing Luo brutally killing him. They were expressionless and extremely calm. They suddenly felt that it was the right decision to cooperate with the Heavenly Academy. The sky was filled with blood. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were sharp, and her glower flame fan swiftly flew towards the sky full of blood. A few drops of blood landed on the glower flame fan. Following that, the glower flame fan landed steadily in Yi Qing Luo's hands. What kind of monster is she? She's not human. She's not human. Wolf Saint technique. How long are you going to hug this woman? If we all die, the spirit assimilation array will not be formed. Wolf Saint technique. This is the top priority of the dark forces. Do you want all of us to die here, just for love affairs? The three elders were completely frightened by Yi Qing Luo's ferocity and cruelty. Just as Yi Qing Luo attacked that elder, Wolf Saint technique was the only one who could protect them. But he was still hugging Yi Qing Qian as he watched that elder being torn into pieces under Yi Qing Luo's cruel methods. The few elders were terrified of death, completely infuriated, facing three pairs of eyes filled with terror and resentment. Wolf Saint technique laughed sinisterly. In my eyes, you are not as important as who are you. The three dark elders' faces turned pale as they gritted their teeth and stared at Wolf Saint technique. They were the key tools for the spirit assimilation array to be formed. If not for them, the spirit assimilation array would be on the verge of collapse. Without the restraints of the array, these 1,500 over students would break the array sooner or later and leave the blazing cavern alive. Moreover, even if these students were unable to break the array, even if Gue Wu, who was still in the blazing cavern, based on his ability, he would definitely discover the array and break it. They didn't have as much time as they imagined. But Wolf Saint Law was the key person. However, at the crucial moment, he chose the beauty and gave up on his plan. It doesn't matter whether you guys are here or not, as long as we wait. Wolf Xingfa indifferently looked at the three enraged faces and sneered with extreme disdain. In short, the soul-absorbing array will be formed, and none of these food will be able to escape. Lang Shengfa's unfinished words caused the faces of the three elders to reveal a hint of joy. Holy wolf technique, you mean? The elder's words had yet to leave his mouth. The entire area surrounded by the barrier suddenly trembled and the mountain swayed. The ground sank deeper and deeper. The cracks also couldn't bear the burden, and large pieces of cracks appeared. Elder Darkness and the wolf Shengfa immediately looked in the direction of the third flame formation core. Damn it! The third fire formation, I was destroyed again. Now, there was only one formation I left. Wolf Saint technique. If the last eye of the array is destroyed, the soul-absorbing array will be completely destroyed. The joy on the Dark Elder's face suddenly disappeared, replaced by anxiety and worry. 3 formation cores were destroyed in a row. Chapter 16:30. And at this moment, Yi Qing Luo's target was already the 4th blazing array core, which meant the last array core. As long as the last array core was destroyed, this spirit assimilation array would be completely destroyed. The 3 Dark Elders realized Yi Qing Luo's thoughts and instantly felt a chill down their spines. They instinctively gathered together as they leaned towards Wolf Saint Technique's back. One elder's blood could only extinguish one array core. Yi Qing Luo wanted to destroy the last array core. She had to randomly kill one of the 3 elders. The last array core would be destroyed. However, At the same time, when they were nearing Wolf Saint Technique, Wolf Saint Technique actually shifted his body, exposing the three of them completely in Yiqing Luo's field of vision. The Dark Elder's face turned black as he bellowed, "Wolf Saint Technique, what do you mean by this?" Wolf Saint Technique's sinister gaze swept past those three elders coldly, as though he didn't even have the intention to take a look at them as he averted his gaze, openly inviting her to destroy the array core. Was this Wolf Saint Technique's brain spoiled? Or what kind of new trick was this? Wolf Saint Technique had planned for such a long time. It was to use the most open and above-board reason to take away all the students' souls, and then push the blame onto Ghost Martial Artist. How could he possibly allow her to destroy the spirit assimilation array? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she tried to use the same method, attempting to use the silver threads to sweep up another Dark Elder. But the moment the glower flame fan in her hands released its profound chi, her arm was slapped hard. A numb feeling spread throughout her arm. With a dong, the glower flame fan fell onto the ground. The moment the silver threads lost their owner's profound chi control, they retracted back into the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo swiftly retracted her arm as she held onto her numb arm. She glanced sideways as she looked at the source of the energy which struck her arm earlier. In that instant, his pupils dilated. That was Shiruoyu? Shiruoyu attacker? No, not only Shiruoyu. Yiqing Luo saw that behind the handsome young man in front of her, those various academies' students who were originally entangled with the dark forces were now swarming towards her direction like a swarm of bees. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's astonishment, Shiruoyu, who was right in front of her, had already raised his palm and struck towards Yiqing Luo's chest. Yiqing Luo speedily retreated out of Shiruoyu's attack range. He quickly scanned his surroundings. These students all had extremely strange expressions on their faces. His face was filled with killing intent, and his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. The footsteps coming towards her were extremely stiff. He was completely different from the students who were fighting against the dark forces just now. They seemed to be controlled by something. Control? Was it the mysterious In-Chi? While Yiqing Luo was swiftly evading those students' attacks, she grabbed the nearest student and locked his lower jaw. When his eyes met the murderous intent in the eyes, he didn't see any aura of mysterious In energy in those eyes. Not the mysterious In-Chi. Could it be? What kind of curse did those elders use? This thought flashed past her mind, and Yiqing Luo immediately rejected it. Impossible. The spell that controlled the consciousness of more than 1,000 students required at least 2 hours to cast. Just a moment ago, these students were still trembling with the forces of darkness. The next moment, they turned into this state. Moreover, it was under the situation where she didn't know anything and was being controlled. It couldn't be the control of the spell. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, you didn't expect this, right? Look at you who values relationships and loyalty. Will you choose to kill these students who have nothing to do with you, or keep on escaping? Chapter 16:31. Yiqing Luo's expression darkened. What was going on? How could all these students be possessed in an instant? When did the underground forces do this? Qing Luo, look at the sky. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan's voice sounded from outside the crowd. Yiqing Luo then discovered that Devil Class's students were all outside the encirclement of those controlled students. There were more than 50 of them, and they all looked normal. Clearly, it wasn't being controlled. The other 1,000 or so students were all under their control. Only the students of Devil Class still maintained their own consciousness. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she followed Long Yunzhan's words and raised her head towards the sky. He took a look. Yiqing Luo's expression instantly turned steely green. In the sky, a huge creature spread its wings. Its feathers glowed brightly, as if they were coated in a multicolored light. It kept circling in the sky. Scarlet Flame? That was Scarlet Flame. Why did it come out of the pet's space? She did not summon Crimson Flame at all. Yiqing Luo frowned and shouted towards the sky. Qian, come back. Clang, clang. A sharp and loud cry came from Qi Yan's mouth. However, the scarlet flame was still circling in the sky and had no intention of returning to Yi Qing Luo's side. Scarlet flame flapped its wings. A bright flame was released from the fiery wings. That ball of flame, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, pervaded the area within the boundary. In his mind, Old Man Song's panicked voice sounded, "Not good. Last, that's a raging flame." Raging flames? What was that? The core skill of the vermilion bird. Old Man Song solemnly said, "The vermilion bird is a fire tribute, sacred beast. The flames it releases are divided into light and dark. The flames of light have the effect of purifying one's heart and burning away all evil. As for the flames of darkness, they pollute people's hearts and achieve the ability to control them." Controlling people's hearts? These 4 words made Yi Qing Luo's expression change drastically. "You mean the changes in these students are due to the control of raging flames?" Old Man Song muttered to himself for a moment. "You see for yourself." Raging flames were already burning around the students of the various academies. Scorching heat, but it would not burn people's skin. However, when the flames landed on the students, they were stunned. The murderous aura and killing intent on the students also became more and more intense. The hearts of these students had already been completely polluted by the blazing flames of Qi Yan. Why did it want to do this? Yi Qing Luo's face turned pale. Qi Yan had already made a contract with it. Why would he do such a thing? "I'm afraid her contract with you is to reduce your suspicions." Old Man Song's voice was a bit gloomy, with Chi-Chi's feelings for Vermilion Bird as a precedent. And then there was the Vermilion Bird's contract with him. No one would doubt the Vermilion Bird. That was why the Vermilion Bird was able to. He used the flames to pollute the hearts of the students of the various academies, making the students from the various academies to be manipulated by the Vermilion Bird to lay their hands on Yi Qing Luo. The Vermilion Bird Danger Ground wouldn't do something like this for no reason. What was the Vermilion Bird's goal? Suddenly, a shrill scream rang out from outside the crowd. A figure was sent flying out. Tong Ziqing fell to the ground in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Who is it?" Long Yunzhan and Yin Xiaoyi's vigilant voices rang. Each of them looked around the surroundings anxiously. Chapter 1632. When the Devil class students heard that, they immediately raised their heads and looked toward the sky. Yin Xiaoyi helped the injured Tong Ziqing up and looked toward the sky. "What happened to Qi Yin? Did Qi Yin attack Ziqing?" No. Kitty Lee's starry eyes stared at Qi Yin vigilantly. "There's someone on Qi Yan's back." On Qi Yan's back? Wasn't Qi Yin at Sundra and wouldn't let anyone get on its back? At the Foundation, when they were crossing the Sea of Fire. It was half threatening and half coaxing that made Qi Yin carry someone. Now, there was someone who could stand on Qi Yan's back. Devil class students narrowed their eyes and looked carefully at Qi Yan's back. As expected, they saw a straight figure standing on Qi Yan's back. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly, and after she saw the figure on Qi Yan's back, her pupils constricted. At this moment, Wolf Saint Law and the 3 elders who had been watching by the side, when they saw the person, their faces revealed an ecstatic expression. Wolf Saint Law's joy was still reserved, but those 3 elders seemed to have seen hope, saw the light. Directly passing Wolf Saint Law, he rushed towards the person on Qi Yan's back and respectfully knelt on the ground. Pharaoh He. This person was indeed one of the 4 great pharaohs from the Dark Forces. Wolf Saint Law had many Dark Guardians and Dark Elders. Among the Dark Guardians, there were only 4 Saint Law, divided into 4 parts. Among the Dark Elders, there were 4 pharaohs, divided into 4 parts. To become the pharaohs among the elders, this person must be an opponent not to be underestimated. And he was a pharaoh who knew a wide variety of dark spells. In conclusion, dealing with this pharaoh was not as easy as dealing with the elders. Looking at the expressions of these 3 elders, it was as if they had seen their own parents. Looking at Wolf Saint Law's relieved look, Yi Qing Luo was almost 100% sure of the guess in her heart. The person on Qi Yan's back looked down at everything from a high vantage point. That gaze seemed to be looking at the ants on the ground, high and mighty, as if he was above everyone's head. Immediately, that person leaped from Qi Yan's back onto the ground. Only then did everyone clearly see the appearance of the person before them. Gender: male. He was about 40 years old. It was very high above sea level, but its body was thin. His face looked as if it had been sucked dry. Pieces of flesh were sunken in, leaving only a layer of skin wrapped around his bones. This face was already scary enough. But the most horrifying thing was the pair of sinister eyes on that skinny face. Dark and cold, it seemed to be filled with endless malice. With just a glance, one would feel as if they were being stared at by a venomous snake. Even if it was Yi Qing Luo, she was also terrified by that pair of eyes. Pharaoh He, you're finally here. The soul assimilating formation won't be able to hold on much longer. An elder knelt and crawled towards the man's leg. Pharaoh Crane glanced at the person at his feet. Those terrifying eyes were devoid of any emotion. The elder took a step back in shock, but he didn't have the time to move. The elder's body suddenly trembled violently. Soon after, a loud bang was heard. The elder exploded in front of everyone's eyes. Blood gushed out. Flesh splattered. It crashed onto the barrier that Pharaoh He had conjured. It didn't touch Pharaoh He's body. The voices of agreement from the other two elders were immediately stuck in their throats. One by one, they curled up on the spot. Chapter 16:33. This scene fell into the eyes of the Devil Class's students. The Devil Class's students couldn't help but felt their scalps go numb. This Pharaoh He killed people without saying a word. The people who were killed were his own people. It could be seen that this Pharaoh He totally didn't care about human lives. What made everyone's heart palpitate was, none of them saw when Pharaoh He made his move, because of Pharaoh He's appearance. Those 1,000 over students stood stiffly on the spot as they stopped their attacks on Yi Qing Luo. Each and every one of the students were like a puppet without a soul. Without anyone controlling them, they wouldn't move at all. Yi Qing Luo's vision was fixated on Pharaoh He's every move. From earlier when Pharaoh He leaped down from the sky, it could be seen that Pharaoh He wasn't like the other elders, who only knew how to cast spells but didn't have any martial prowess. Pharaoh He not only had a strong ability to cast spells, and his skills were not inferior to the Guardians. It looked like the reason why Qi Yin suddenly released the blazing flames to pollute the students' hearts. It was definitely related to this Pharaoh He. The profound Yin Qi on that Pharaoh He is very dense. Old Man Song said in a deep voice in her mind. Yi Qing Luo nodded. I felt it too. That profound Yin Qi on Pharaoh He. It was completely different from what she had sensed from the other members of the Dark Coalition. That profound Yin Qi on Pharaoh He was so dense that profound Yin Qi was emitted from his body, from his bones. Furthermore, Yi Qing Luo had a feeling. It was as if he was the one who created the mysterious Yin Qi. It made one inexplicably feel repulsed. Pharaoh He didn't even bother to take a look at Wolf Saint Dharma. His sinister eyes looked towards Yi Qing Luo. A strange sneer appeared on his skinny face. He lifted his feet and walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. That footwork was light and his posture was leisurely. Imperceptibly, it released a strong pressure. Qing Luo, Long Yunjian, seemed to have realized something as he anxiously rushed to Yi Qing Luo's side. But he was stopped by Yi Qing Luo's sharp cry from the metal. Don't come over. His target is me. Long Yunjian's footsteps halted. He's not weak. He's no ordinary elder. Yi Qing Luo's vision stared vigilantly at Pharaoh He. Don't alarm him first. While speaking, Pharaoh He had already walked in front of Yi Qing Luo, the mysterious Yin Qi that was rushing towards him. This made Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Looking at her tightly knitted eyebrows, Pharaoh Crane's lips curled into a cold smile. Curious? Pharaoh He's voice was extremely hoarse. When he spoke, it was like a sawtooth cutting her ear. Yi Qing Luo knew what Pharaoh He was asking. She was curious as to why Qi Yin would listen to Pharaoh He. She had already connected with Qi Yin in her mind. The soul contract between her and Qi Yin was not lifted. However, She couldn't talk to Qi Yin. To be more precise, Qi Yin had completely shielded her aura. This pharaoh greatly treasures rare talents like you. Pharaoh's voice was filled with coldness, causing those who heard it to feel a chill down their spine. Yiqing Luo totally couldn't hear any hint of cherishing. This pharaoh will let you die knowing why. As pharaoh, he said that. His vision shot towards Wolf Saint Dharma, who was standing not too far away, hugging a lady, as a sliver of disdain flashed past his eyes. Take it as your reward for injuring that trash in such a sorry state. Wolf Saint Dharma's body stiffened slightly. Chapter 1634. But in consideration of a lady in his arms. In the end, Wolf Saint Dharma suppressed his anger. Seeing Wolf Saint Magic compromise, the disdain in Pharaoh Crane's eyes deepened. Yiqing Luo looked at the atmosphere between the both of them. She could roughly guess that the relationship between the both of them wasn't harmonious. In Pharaoh Crane's mouth, Wolf Saint Magic was said to be trash. Looking at Wolf Saint Magic's reaction, if it wasn't for the fact that he was carrying Yiqing Qian, if it wasn't for the current situation where they couldn't fight amongst themselves, Wolf Saint Magic would probably pounce forward and fight to the death with Pharaoh Crane. The dark forces were divided into two categories. They were either protectors or elders. The interaction between these two groups was bound to be mutual comparison and belittling, absolutely unable to achieve peaceful coexistence and mutual support. This Saint Magic and Pharaoh, they were natural enemies. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in her thoughts, Pharaoh Crane had already shifted his gaze back on her. Did you think that the flame beast rampage in the flame nest was really caused by the dark forces? Pharaoh Crane's lips curled upwards as he gave a scornful sneer. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her heart trembled violently as her eyes were filled with astonishment. If this sentence was said by someone from the dark forces, she absolutely wouldn't believe it. But Pharaoh Crane's arrogance, he totally didn't put these young students in his eyes. He couldn't be bothered to lie to her. And the meaning of Pharaoh Crane's words, which meant the flame beast rampage in the Foundation ground, wasn't because of the dark forces, but to absorb the souls of those cultivators who came because of the prophecy of the divine object's descent. But because the scarlet flame's raging flames had tainted the consciousness of those flame beasts, which caused those flame beasts who would never hurt anyone if they didn't touch the heart meridian to rampage. Indeed, at that time, when she was sucked into the Foundation ground by that strong whirlwind, she didn't encounter the flame beast's attacks. But when she followed Chi-Chi's guidance and found Vermilion Bird, the flame beast started to appear. So, right from the start, Vermilion Bird was acting in front of her. Vermilion Bird wanted to make use of the flame beast to let her quickly accept its existence. Since Vermilion Bird was helping the dark forces and stood on the dark forces' side, why did it forcefully form a soul contract with her? Little girl, you're really smart. You figured it out so quickly? Pharaoh's disdainful gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and immediately looked towards the scarlet flame on the horizon. He waved his hand. Scarlet flame immediately stopped circling and flew toward Pharaoh He. As he approached Pharaoh He obediently stood beside him. The phoenix feathers that were overflowing with light and vibrant colors had an elegant and noble form. However, it was filled with a chill that made one shiver in fear. When Qian's blood-red pupils, which were filled with raging flames, met Yiqing Luo's gaze, Yiqing Luo didn't see any trace of emotion in its eyes. He wasn't as arrogant as he was when they first met. He was no longer as rude and domineering as he was when they first met. He was as still as water, as if he had lost all his thoughts. It was just like, that's right. It was like a puppet that had lost its soul. He was the same as the students from the other academies, even though his body was moving. However, he could not see any soul in his eyes. It's you? Yiqing Luo reacted. You're the one who used your dark forces curse to control Qi Yin. Ha ha ha. Pharaoh, he laughed out loud. Little lass, you're really smart. You're getting more and more in my eyes. What he meant was that Yiqing Luo's guess was right. Qi Yin listened to Pharaoh's command. Chapter 1635. In the heart meridian zone of the foundation, Qi Yin had already been controlled by Pharaoh He's curse. Then, why would Qi Yin choose to form a contract with her? And it was a soul contract. One must know that Vermilion Bird was one of the 4 sacred beasts. Even Pharaoh, he should also want to get Vermilion Bird. What was his motive for letting Vermilion Bird form a contract with her? Little lass, do you want to save those people whose minds have been corrupted by the blazing flames? Pharaoh, he revealed a smile. Yiqing Luo pressed her lips together vigilantly. Pharaoh, he gave a low laugh. If you want to save those whose minds have been corrupted by the blazing flames, you only need to kill Vermilion Bird. The dark flames brought by Vermilion Bird will be removed. Yiqing Luo frowned. Indeed, this Pharaoh, he was just teasing her. The people from the Dark Forces had some understanding of her character. They knew that she would absolutely not kill Vermilion Bird for her own survival or for those students. Let's not talk about whether she had the ability to kill Vermilion Bird. Even if she did, she would absolutely not do it. Vermilion Bird was her contracted battle pet, and also Chi-Chi's friend. If she killed Vermilion Bird, where would Chi-Chi be? Can't bear to. Pharaoh, he gave a weird laugh as his slender eyes squinted, adding a tinge of treacherous coldness. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips in silence. This Pharaoh, his character was extremely strange. There was really no normal person in the Dark Forces. Then, this Pharaoh shall be a good person to the end and help you make a choice. Pharaoh, his sinister eyes were suddenly covered with a circle of black, profound Inchi. Following that, he raised his hand and conjured a hand seal. A ray of black light charged straight towards Qi Yin. The scarlet flame let out a sharp cry. Suddenly it flapped its wings and flew into the sky. A ball of blazing flames once again covered the sky and earth as it fell down. Those originally motionless 1,000 over students. At the moment when the cry sounded, Li Tianlan's expression changed. They started to move. Like puppets whose strings had been pulled, they swarmed towards Yiqing Luo's direction and surrounded her. Pharaoh, his sharp voice rang out amidst the crowd with a deep laugh. Little girl, since you don't want to kill the Vermilion Bird, then kill these people who have been bewitched by the Vermilion Bird. Otherwise, the one who will die will be you. Yiqing Luo retreated swiftly. A trace of hostility flashed across her charming eyes. Birds of a feather really do flock together. You people from the Dark Forces really like to use the same insidious methods. Before this, he had used the mysterious Yin energy to control Long Yunjian, forcing her to kill Long Yunjian to save the World Group Brothers. Now, he was using this method again. He wanted to force her to make a choice. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. They would not allow the Dark Forces to control them. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and looked in the direction of Qi Yin. She gripped the glowing fan in her hand tightly. Seeing Yiqing Luo's actions, Old Crane laughed out loud. Looks like you still did. Before Pharaoh, he could finish his words. Suddenly, the entire area surrounded by the barrier shook violently. The cracked ground was collapsing into pieces. A powerful aura wantonly unfolded in the entire area. Roar, roar, roar. A tiger's roar which was filled with tension reverberated throughout the entire blazing lair. This roar penetrated the barrier as it spread in all directions of the blazing lair. Bam! A loud sound was heard. They saw a huge white tiger with a snow-white body suddenly appearing in front of everyone's eyes as it descended from the sky. Chapter 1636. Yiqing Luo sneered. A cold-blooded, heartless, emotionless monster like you. How would you understand? After saying that, she looked at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, go find Qi Yin and wake him up. Roar. Chi-Chi let out a tiger roar, and the huge creature soared towards the scarlet flames in the sky. After knowing that Qi Yin was being controlled by the secret art, Chi-Chi was so anxious that it couldn't wait to rush out to stop Qi Yin. The current Chi-Chi was filled with guilt. In the heart vein, it actually didn't notice anything wrong with Qi Yin. It actually didn't notice that Qi Yin was being controlled. If it had noticed earlier, Qi Yin was very likely. Then it wouldn't be called the Dark Forces. a tool to deal with its master. It didn't believe that Qi Yin would really lose his nature. That arrogant and extremely arrogant Qi Yin. He would absolutely not be willing to be controlled by others. Qi rushed to the front of Qi Yin, but before it could get in contact with Qi Yin opened its mouth and spat out a blazing flame at Qi. Qi evaded in time, but its fur was still grazed by the fire. Ha ha ha! There's no power in this world that can break my secret art. Even a sacred beast is the same. Pharaoh, he laughed loudly, extremely confident in his curse. A young lass, whose hair hadn't even grown out. His lord was actually so fearful of her. That group of guardians from the dark forces were really becoming more and more useless. They actually fell into the hands of this young lass time and time again. Pharaoh, he looked at the disheveled wolf Saint Law with disdain and snorted coldly. This wolf Saint Law was usually extremely high profile in the dark forces. It could be said that even in front of his lord, he was always sloppy and didn't give any face to anyone. But now, he was in such a dire state that he had to seek help from him. After today's mission was completed, all the credit belonged to his Pharaoh's forces. His status in the Pharaoh's forces could surpass the status of the Saint Law. The status of an elder could also surpass the status of a guardian. With this thought in mind, the complacent smile on Pharaoh, his face grew thicker. It deeply hurt Wolf Saint Law's eyes. He resisted the disdainful gaze that Pharaoh he shot at him. Between his brows, there was a sinister chill. The two of them looked calm, but each had their own thoughts. Pharaoh, his appearance gave the remaining two elders some room to breathe a sigh of relief. They immediately found a safe place and continued to cast spells to ensure that the soul-assimilating array would not be destroyed. Yiqing Luo was surrounded by those 1,000 over students. He couldn't hurt them, so he could only dodge. He could only control his strength and knock them out. He had no way of finding Pharaoh Crane. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Pharaoh, he also began to participate in the embroidery soul assimilation formation. 3 of the soul assimilating array's fiery eyes had already been destroyed. The only remaining eye of the formation. It supported the entire soul assimilation array. Moreover, Pharaoh, his incantation and mental strength were things that these elders could not compare to. But within a short period of time, the damaged array which was destroyed by Yiqing Luo had already been restored. The speed at which Pharaoh he repaired the spirit assimilating array made Yiqing Luo shocked. She had spent so much time to destroy 3 formation cores. However, it was easily repaired by Pharaoh Crane. If he didn't get rid of Pharaoh, once the soul assimilating array was formed, all of them would die here. Furthermore, his soul had been devoured, and he would never be able to reincarnate. The last formation, Core Flame. It must be exterminated. Yiqing Luo's gaze suddenly turned cold as she raised her leg, sending the wave of students who were surrounding her flying away. Chapter 16:37. Pharaoh, he noticed Yiqing Luo's actions as his eyes were filled with disdain. Overestimating yourself. Since you can't wait to send yourself to death, I shall grant you your wish. Pharaoh, his fingers formed a hand seal as he muttered. Following that, a ball of black flame suddenly sprang up on his fingertips. Dense, mysterious Yin Shi danced at the tip of his finger. Swoosh! The mysterious Yin Shi, which looked like a burning flame, suddenly formed a huge coiling dragon on top of the spell. The huge black dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws towards Yiqing Luo's face. No wonder he's a Pharaoh-level character from the Dark Forces. He can even use offensive spells with ease. Old Man Song saw the huge dragon formed by the profound Yin Shi through Yiqing Luo's eyes and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Offensive spells? Yiqing Luo evaded the huge dragon's attack as she looked at it puzzledly. Offensive spells are to use one's own mental power to combine with sinister spells to summon something with battle ability to help oneself win a beautiful battle. Old Man Song explained, like now, the dark spell that Pharaoh he is casting is to summon the huge dragon for him to attack. Yiqing Luo listened to his explanation. She bent her body and evaded the huge dragon's attack, which was about to swallow her up. Her footsteps also moved quickly. You're not joking, are you? Summoning a huge dragon and using it to attack the enemy? Wasn't this a summoner summoning a little divine dragon? Moreover, this wasn't a real dragon. It was a dragon formed by the profound Yin Qi. No matter how she fought it, it wouldn't die. Yiqing Luo was depressed. Heavens must be playing a trick on her. Your target is the two elders behind him. As long as you get the blood of one of them and destroy the last array, the rest will be much easier. Old man Song reminded. Easy to say. This pharaoh, he won't give me a chance to get close. Yiqing Luo frowned. This pharaoh, he's ability is not as good as you. Old man Song pondered for a moment. He's only relying on casting a curse to create pressure on you. As long as you can think of a way to stop him from casting the curse, you can absolutely use his blood to destroy the last array. Even if it's to stop him from casting the spell, it's still an extremely difficult task. Yiqing Luo looked at the huge dragon in front of her, whose attacks were getting more and more ferocious, as she was already feeling frustrated from hiding. This huge dragon of profound Yin energy had been protecting Pharaoh all this time. Even approaching Pharaoh Crane was a problem for her. Not to mention stopping Pharaoh Crane from casting the curse. Unless Yiqing Luo's eyes sparkled with a sliver of brilliance. If he couldn't do it openly, then he could do it in the dark to deal with such a despicable and shameless opponent. Naturally, he had to use extreme measures. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she looked at the giant dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. His figure suddenly swayed. With the naked eye, one could only see a white skirt fluttering in the wind, like a gorgeous flower blooming. Immediately after, a feather fan that flickered with a demonic and mysterious light appeared, carrying with it an extremely dense and powerful force. It directly blasted that huge dragon into pieces. Pharaoh, he was immensely pleased with himself for using the dark curse to summon the huge dragon. That huge dragon was actually defeated by Yiqing Luo's counterattack. And because of the curse's backlash, Pharaoh, his chest felt stuffy as his body tensed up and trembled. He abruptly retreated a few steps. His slender figure swayed slightly. He finally stabilized his footsteps. Chapter 1638. Pharaoh, his reaction was not bad. Just as Yiqing Luo's leg was about to hit him, his body moved backwards. Following that, he somersaulted sideways and avoided Yiqing Luo's leg, although he wasn't injured. But Pharaoh, he had suffered losses in Yiqing Luo's hands time and time again. That pride in his heart had suffered a serious blow. Immediately, his face sunk and his fingers formed a hand seal as he recited a series of incantations, which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Yiqing Luo could only retreat when she saw this. Pharaoh, his incantations were many, sinister, and poisonous. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to take the risk to test Pharaoh, his incantations. Moreover, only she was clear about it. She had just destroyed the huge dragon and attacked Pharaoh he. How much energy had she expended? Pharaoh he's incantations were not as powerful as what ordinary people imagined. Even if Pharaoh he was in the profound grade, he might not be Yiqing Luo's opponent. But Pharaoh he could rely on his offensive incantations to deplete Yiqing Luo's energy. Releasing the profound energy of the sky, profound realm consumed 2/3 of his profound energy and smashed the giant dragon into pieces in one fell swoop. Yiqing Luo was already feeling exhausted, but she absolutely could not show any signs of exhaustion. Once she revealed any signs of exhaustion, Pharaoh he would definitely follow up with another attack. By then, she wouldn't be able to stop him. But now, she had shattered the huge dragon into pieces and made Pharaoh he feel embarrassed. This had already caused a kind of shock in Pharaoh he's heart. Pharaoh he didn't dare to casually choose to attack. She could also get a moment of rest. Young lady is indeed arrogant. Pharaoh he's heart was overflowing with anger. In his eyes, Yiqing Luo was just a small sky profound cultivator. Not to mention that she was just a small cultivator who had just stepped into the sky profound stage. Even if she was a sky profound 5th grade cultivator. In front of him, Pharaoh, she was just a piece of trash that could be easily oppressed. She was just a silly lass. Her innate talent was slightly stronger. Did she really think that she was that powerful? Pharaoh, he pointed his hand seal forward. Yiqing Luo felt the ground suddenly shaking incessantly. Her heart tightened. Instinctively, she took a step back, and the moment she retreated, a sharp object shrouded in a black aura rose from the ground where she had been standing. They were sharp rocks formed from the ground. If only Yiqing Luo had not taken a step back. Perhaps she was about to be split in half by that sharp stone. This pharaoh, he was really going for the kill. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to think further. Yiqing Luo felt the surging feeling from the ground once again. She glanced at the extremely sharp stone. He quickly dodged to the side. Immediately following that, pieces of sharp, huge rocks rose up from the ground, as though they were following Yiqing Luo's footsteps. As they kept following her footsteps, as pieces of them cracked. After a while, rows of extremely sharp boulders had already emerged from the ground of the entire area. Looking at Yiqing Luo's battered and exhausted appearance, Pharaoh, he scoffed. His fingers, which were forming seals, quickly changed their movements. The dense, mysterious yin qi surged out rapidly. This old man wants to see how much energy you have to escape. Pharaoh, he sneered. Following that, he grabbed hold of the time and walked in front of those two elders. Together with them, they displayed their secret arts to set up the spirit assimilation array. With the addition of Pharaoh, the spirit assimilation array received a huge supply of energy. Chapter 1639. Girl, we must stop that Pharaoh. At this moment, Old Man Song wished he could rush out of the Azure Dew bracelet and transform into a spiritual body to stop Pharaoh. Yiqing Luo dodged the sharp boulders. Her forehead was already full of sweat. I also want to stop it, but this damn thing, how on earth can it stop? This boulder had completely locked onto her. She continued to walk around the boulders. The entire ground was filled with boulders, and it was so deep that no one could stand on it. Devil classes students were trying their best to stop those 1,000 over students from disturbing Yiqing Luo. Chi-Chi and the vermilion bird were still circling in the air. Could it be? Was he really going to let Shiju come out? Shiju was still a young wolf-type mirage beast. This kind of battle situation summoned Shiju. It was equivalent to sending Shiju to its death. Lass, your memory is so bad. Seeing that Yiqing Luo thought of Shiju, Old Man Song also suddenly recalled. Didn't Shiju swallow the Gui Wu who guarded the 18 levels of hell in the Heavenly Pagoda's experiment? Gui Wu, that meatball that could continuously regenerate? Before they participated in the inter-class competition, it was a test of strength organized by the Academy. Once they entered the Heavenly Pagoda, the final obstacle would be this Gui Wu, right? Shiju had devoured Gui Wu. In other words, he had inherited Gui Wu's regeneration ability. There was this effect. Yiqing Luo totally didn't need to worry about Shiju's safety. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo summoned Shiju out. Upon receiving the order, Shiju immediately charged in Pharaoh's direction. Pharaoh, he frowned slightly, as though he had not expected that Yiqing Luo could actually summon out a war pet. Just as he was about to retract his mental power from the soul assimilation array, a voice suddenly rang out. A figure suddenly flashed in front of him. Following that, he saw a wolf saint carrying Yiqing Qian as it blocked in front of Shiju. He frowned slightly, his face full of displeasure. Pharaoh, please hurry up. Seeing Holy Wolf taking the initiative to help, Pharaoh, he sneered inwardly. He did not reply to the wolf sacred technique. Instead, he closed his eyes and released his psychic energy once more. Yiqing Luo was also paying attention to Shiju's movements. Seeing that Shiju had been surrounded by the wolf saint technique, they immediately started fighting. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Shiju's combat ability had yet to undergo training. How could he be a match for the wolf saint technique? Old Man Song, if I were to release the thunderclap arts now. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth. She couldn't sit still and wait for death. a secret technique manual to clear the first 2 floors of the Purgatory Tower. She had learned it, but she could not use it in front of others. But now, he couldn't care less. No, Old Song stopped him without hesitation. If you use the thunderclap art, then the dark powers will know that the Azure Dew bracelet is in your hands. Are you sure that you have the ability to protect the Azure Dew bracelet? Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. She turned around and avoided the sharp boulder that was chasing after her. He looked sideways at Shi Ju, who was obviously at a disadvantage in the hands of the Wolf Saint technique. His gaze shifted to the side, seeing the 50 over Devil class students being surrounded by 1,000 over students. Not even a drop of water could trickle through. He couldn't hurt those students. The students of Devil class could only knock those students unconscious. However, there were simply too many of them. Their physical strength was also limited. Their bodies were covered with wounds of various sizes. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed tightly. Clang clang. A sharp cry came from the air. Yiqing Luo raised her head. She saw Chi-Chi's charred fur, whereas Chi-Yin flapped his wings, without any intention of showing mercy to Chi-Chi. Chapter 1640. Lass, don't be rash. Sensing the raging fury in Yiqing Luo's heart, Old Man Song's voice was filled with urgency. Once Yiqing Luo released the thunderclap arts, the dark forces would most likely place their attention on the thunderclap arts. And then, the secret of the Azure Dew bracelet would be exposed to the lower realms. If the news of the Azure Dew bracelet's reappearance reached the upper realms, this lower realm, it would probably set off a bloodbath. Lass, the more Old Man Song thought, the more anxious he got. But he hadn't finished his words. Suddenly, he felt an extremely horrifying, profound qi flowing on Yiqing Luo's body. The enchanting, profound qi enveloped Yiqing Luo from head to toe. The surrounding profound qi was like a raging storm, surging around Yiqing Luo's body continuously. This lass, could it be? Bam, bam, bam. A deafening explosion was heard. Following that, those huge rocks which kept on following Yiqing Luo's footsteps, which kept gushing out from the ground, started to explode. The entire stretch of sharp boulders that rose from the ground had already turned into ruins. Pharaoh, he saw that his curse was destroyed by Yiqing Luo using such a barbaric method. His face revealed a shocked and aghast expression. When he opened his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo, Pharaoh, he had even stopped chanting the incantation, only to see that young lady floating above the ruins. Her green and white uniform was fluttering under the strong wind. That long black hair which had reached her buttocks danced on her shoulders, as misty as smoke. That devastatingly beautiful face was extremely gloomy and cold, suffused with a murderous viciousness. The most dazzling thing was that pair of eyes which were filled with killing intent. The brilliance circulated like the brightest stars in the sky, bewitching people's hearts, taking their lives. This kind of imposing manner, it was totally different from the previous imposing manner. The current Yiqing Luo was like a queen who controlled everything in the world. Above the 9 heavens, no one could match her. The first level of the sky, profound realm, was actually this powerful. The current Yiqing Luo had unleashed all the energy in her body. Sky Profound Supreme. It was known as the Supreme Profound Strength of the Strong. Only the Earth Profound 3rd grade Pharaoh, he was able to use his mental power to cast a curse. Yet Yiqing Luo could use her profound energy to directly break it. Girl, you're too reckless. Old Man Song was aware of the motive behind Yiqing Luo's actions. His heart was somewhat distressed, but he was extremely helpless. At this moment, Old Man Song was extremely fed up with his current self. He was unable to manifest his spiritual body, unable to help Yiqing Luo. He could only watch helplessly as Yiqing Luo fell into a predicament from within the Azure Dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo's current body, because of the profound In Qi which could control her consciousness at any time, was totally unable to unleash all her profound energy. Otherwise, it would be easy for the mysterious aura to seize the opportunity to control her. But Yiqing Luo still released her profound energy. He could not use the thunderclap incantation. He could only use this most direct method. Wolf Saint technique. Quick, stop her. Now only you can stop her. Pharaoh, he looked at Yiqing Luo's icy cold, murderous gaze as his face turned pale from fright. Pharaoh craned strength, lied in his curses. But his curses were all dark curses. It was a forbidden, sinister curse in this world. It broke the laws of this world. Naturally, it would receive the punishment and backlash from the heavenly way. Pharaoh, he was very clear, even if he used his curses to stop Yiqing Luo's footsteps. Chapter 1641. As for himself, because of the excessive consumption of his mental power, instead, he would collapse even more than Yiqing Luo. Wolf Saint technique split Shiju apart with one palm as he shot a cold glance at Elder He. The expression on his face revealed a sliver of disdain. Trash. You. Elder He's expression sunk. This Wolf Saint technique was obviously taking revenge for calling him trash earlier. Wolf Saint technique gave a cold harumph as he retracted his gaze and headed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. No matter how much they didn't get along, under the current situation, they couldn't fight amongst themselves. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't even bother to look at Wolf Saint technique. Just as Wolf Saint technique's attack was about to hit her, Yiqing Luo's figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. In a blink of an eye, Yiqing Luo appeared beside Shiju. Earlier, Wolf Saint technique's palm had struck Shiju onto the ground, making it unable to move. Yiqing Luo looked at Shiju, who was lying on the ground, spitting out blood. The coldness in her eyes grew thicker. Slut, how dare you belittle this Saint technique? Wolf Saint technique bellowed angrily as he hugged Yiqing chin tightly as he leapt forward. With a palm strike, it brought along a black, profound whirlwind as it struck towards Yiqing Luo's back. The baleful aura was like a ray, as though it wanted to devour everything in the world. Yiqing Luo's squinted eyes shot out a chilly intent as it became more and more penetrating. Her fingers, which were caressing Shiju's black fur, moved. The glower flame fan instantly left her palm. In the middle of her palm, a few numbers flipped rapidly. Following that, like a sharp blade, it shot towards the palm wind behind her. Boom! The glower flame fan's enchanting red glow collided with the palm wind, which was filled with profound qi. The black aura was constantly flowing. That valiant aura was like an avalanche, as though it wanted to suppress that enchanting red glow completely. But just at this moment, that red glow, which was enveloped by the profound qi, suddenly, it released a stream of blazing flame. Carrying an extremely terrifying aura, it broke apart all the aura. Boom, boom, boom. Another one or two loud vibrations were heard. As the glowing flame fan spun rapidly, it actually split apart the mysterious qi of the palm wind. The bewitching red light gradually gained the upper hand. Lang Sheng Fa's expression sunk, as if he had not expected Yiqing Luo to have such overbearing strength. He immediately pushed out his palm again. The violent palm wind was accompanied by dense, mysterious qi. In an instant, the palm wind surged like a flood. Qing Luo, Madame Qing Luo. When the Devil class students saw that, they were filled with worry. Unfortunately, they couldn't find time. The encirclement of more than 1,000 students had completely exhausted all of their strength. Don't mind me. Yiqing Luo's chilly voice revealed an extreme chill. Her frosty face had already been frozen into ice. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth lingered around her body. Gradually, a white protective barrier was formed. She narrowed her eyes, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a cold smile. It was ridiculous. It was simply laughable. A few Devil class students, because of this moment of absent-mindedness, were struck by students from other academies. Meanwhile, the bewitching red light that was surrounded by the black gas suddenly released a dazzling light. Bang! The glower flame fan collided with that surging palm wind. Following that, It went straight towards Lang Sheng Fa's face. What? Lang Sheng Fa stared at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. This sky profound first-grade cultivator actually broke through his profound chi attack? How could this be possible? One must know that after the sky profound stage, the difference of 1 grade was like a world of difference. A sky profound second-grade cultivator could easily suppress a sky profound first-grade cultivator. Not to mention, he was now a sky profound third-grade cultivator. Chapter 1642. Not allowing Wolf Saint Magic to think too much. The Glowerfan's attack was already right in front of him. The profound strength of the first grade of the sky, profound realm, was extremely dense and vigorous. It was accompanied by a terrifying red glow. Wolf Saint Magic swiftly evaded. With a flip of his hand, his palm struck towards the Glowerfan. That palm chi was like a huge dragon galloping, engulfing the mountains and rivers, obviously intending to destroy the Glowerfan completely. But the Wolf Saint Technique's palm had yet to strike out. He heard Pharaoh He's sharp howl, "Wolf trash! Are you blind? Why are you competing with a magical weapon?" That young lady went to destroy the last array eye. The last array eye? Wolf Saint Magic's pupils constricted. His state of mind relaxed a little at this moment. Bam! In this moment of absent-mindedness, the glowing flame fan coincidentally struck his raised palm. Ah, Wolf Saint Magic screamed. That Glowerfan carried a violent, profound chi and directly pierced through Wolf Saint Magic's palm. Wolf Saint Magic painfully retracted his bloody hand. Idiot! Pharaoh, he gritted his teeth and scolded in a low voice. Your Sacred Law Society is simply incapable of accomplishing anything. And at this moment, Yi Qing Luo shot the Glowerfan towards Wolf Saint Magic. She headed towards the direction of one of the elders who was still casting the spell. The fatal profound chi shot out from Yi Qing Luo's palm. Her face was emotionless, and her pair of blood-stained eyes were ice-cold. This Yi Qing Luo, like a bloodthirsty killer god from hell. Even devil-classes students were shocked by Yi Qing Luo's expression. That elder had no chance to resist and died under Yi Qing Luo's palm wind. Blood splattered. Yi Qing Luo grabbed the elder's corpse and took out his blood. Qing Luo. Yin Xiao looked at Yi Qing Luo in front of her. Her voice was trembling. This Yi Qing Luo looked extremely unfamiliar. Yi Qing Luo heard the voice and glanced sideways at Yin Xiao. Her exquisite face was stained with the elder's blood that splattered out. It made that face even more seductive and charming. However, the coldness in his eyes did not have the slightest bit of warmth that he usually had. Such a Yi Qing Luo, even they. Shivers ran down his spine. Qing, Yin Xiao, clenched her fists tightly as she wanted to continue talking to Yi Qing Luo. But Yi Qing Luo had already turned her head around. Holding the blood in her hands, she headed towards the direction of the last array eye. Yin Xiaoyi's voice was stuck in her throat. Qing Luo is a little strange, have you all realized? Yin Xiao said softly. A few devil-class students nodded. Yi Qing Luo had never used that kind of expression to look at them. What was going on? Why was the current Yi Qing Luo? Why does he look so strange? Yi Qing Luo quickly approached the last array eye. If one looked closely, they could clearly see the cold sweat seeping out of her forehead. Her tightly knitted brows furrowed into several layers of wrinkles. Damn it! Just as Xian had said, she could not force herself to release all of her profound rank. As expected, forcefully consuming the power of the profound Jade Heart. She could no longer control her mind. Perhaps it was because he had lost control too many times. This time, she actually sensed something. She sensed the blood in her body boiling. She could feel a voice in her head that was constantly clamoring for her to kill everyone present. Bursts of piercing pain in her heart seemed to be stimulating her senses, especially when she had completely concentrated all her energy on the Glower Flame fan, attacking the Wolf Saint technique. Chapter 1643. Heavens knew how much willpower she had used. Only then did she forcefully suppress the restless feeling in her heart. At this moment, Yi-Ching Luo felt extremely fortunate. When she was the patriarch of the Yi family's hidden family, she had suffered various kinds of inhumane torture from those old men. There was one of them, which was the torture towards willpower. Under the inhumane torture of those old men, she had been tortured for an entire month. Tortured until she was about to lose her mind. Tortured until she was on her last breath, about to die. And through those tortures, successfully surviving till now. Her willpower was beyond what a normal person could imagine. Otherwise, when she had just crossed over to this world, under the situation where her profound jade heart was dug out and she was forcefully fed with medicine, she could still make the most direct response. What she relied on was that inhumane willpower. Today, this willpower had once again saved her life. But this kind of forceful suppression would not solve the root of the problem. She had to find out where that mysterious force which was controlling her consciousness came from. Only then could she get rid of that inexplicable, profound yin-chi in her body. Then she could rest assured. In her chest, that heart was beating faster and faster, as though it was about to jump out from her throat. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath and increased her speed as she headed straight towards the array eye. Quick! Stop, Yi-Ching Luo. The last array, I must not be destroyed. Pharaoh's sharp and flustered voice kept ringing. Those remaining 100 over Dark Ones and 10 over Dark Guardians swarmed towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. This bunch of students were simply too crazy. They had never seen such abnormal youngsters. Just based on 50 over people, they actually blocked off the attacks of 1,000 over students. And they were able to delay them, not allowing them to stop Yi-Ching Luo. They absolutely could not let these students leave the blazing flame nest alive. This thought made the dark forces battle intent ignite. All of them broke through the devil class's students' obstruction and charged towards Yi-Ching Luo without a care for their lives. Momentarily, the entire area which was surrounded by the array formation, it had all sunk into a terrifying atmosphere, as the atmosphere froze into ice. Yi-Ching Luo was just a few steps away from the last array eye. The Dark Guardian had already rushed over and speedily attacked Yi-Ching Luo, preventing her from moving forward. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes turned cold as an extremely cold breath started to encircle her feet. Like a whirlwind, it circled around his body. The glowing flame fan in her hand suddenly opened and was raised high up. Wind blades that were as sharp as blades flew towards the Dark Protectors. The Dark Protectors didn't have time to dodge. They were cut into pieces by the wind blades. The thick smell of blood added a nauseating smell to the cold air. Fresh blood splashed onto Yi-Ching Luo's face and body. Yi-Ching Luo's expression was emotionless, as her eyes were filled with an icy cold glint as she stared coldly at the dark party who kept rushing over, blocking her way. The flames around his body made him look like a bloodthirsty god of death. He raised his hand, and a terrifying ray of light swept across the area. Wherever the profound energy went, it left behind a deep pit. Corpses flew out one after another. Even the Dark Ones, who were used to seeing slaughter, were shocked by this scene. At this moment, he was so scared that his legs felt like jelly. Some of them didn't dare to go nearer to Yi-Ching Luo's direction. Was this really that 15-year-old young lady? She was so vicious and merciless in killing people. Furthermore, she was still so calm, without any change in expression. It was as though... Chapter 1644. What are you waiting for? Pharaoh's heart was burning with anxiety. His fingers rapidly formed hand seals, and he used his powerful mental power to once again cast a dark curse. A thick stream of profound yin-chi turned into whirlwinds filled with murderous aura. That whirlwind seemed as though it had condensed into raging waves as it surged towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. The range of the whirlwind was extremely large. Yi-Ching Luo had nowhere to escape to. Naturally, those Dark Ones who were surrounding Yi-Ching Luo couldn't avoid being attacked by the whirlwind. However, Pharaoh did not mind. As long as he could stop Yi-Ching Luo from getting closer to the last flame array eye. Even if all the Dark Ones were dead, he would not hesitate to do so, Yiqing Luo had nowhere to hide from these whirlwinds. Only by leaving the range of the formation, could he avoid the whirlwind and survive. Pharaoh he. The Dark Ones howled in pain as the whirlwind attacked them. But their voices only lasted for an instant. He disappeared into the whirlwind. The whirlwind was like a demon that could devour everything. Not even their bones were left to the countless Dark Ones. Immediately following that, those numerous whirlwinds enveloped Yiqing Luo tightly. It had completely engulfed Yiqing Luo. Ha ha! Seeing this, Pharaoh he could not help but laugh out loud. His sinister eyes gleefully looked at Yiqing Luo, who was engulfed by the whirlwind. Confirming that the whirlwind had indeed swallowed Yiqing Luo completely. Pharaoh he immediately flew toward the eye of the formation. When he was about to reach the eye of the formation, Pharaoh he's face turned pale. With his powerful mental power, a hint of vigilance surfaced in his heart. His footsteps came to a halt. In the meantime, that frightening whirlwind was still as imposing as before, mixed with the crushed stones and limbs of the corpses on the ground. However, the only difference was the whirlwind was surrounded by rings of powerful red light. They were densely packed, one after another, like a continuous stream of red electricity. This power. Pharaoh he's face was deathly pale as he stared at the whirlwind in shock. No, impossible. How could a first-grade sky, profound Xian practitioner possess such formidable strength? An enchanting red glow. Strands of silk wrapped around the whirlwind. Bang! The earth shook and the mountains shook. The whirlwind slowly opened up a gap. A figure covered in blood and covered in a cold aura rushed out. After that figure broke through the whirlwind, without any hesitation, Zhang Xian headed straight for the eye of the formation. With a schwa sound, the elder's blood fell onto the formation's eye. Rumble. As the flames were extinguished, the entire area began to collapse. Soul assimilation array, it was completely destroyed. How is this possible? Pharaoh Crane staggered a few steps back. On this trembling ground, he was unable to stand firm and fell heavily to the ground. He was originally proud and arrogant. At this moment, he was like a stray dog. He had never expected this. Yiqing Luo could actually destroy the array core. After releasing all of the power of the profound Jade Heart, he was actually still able to maintain his rationality. The truth is right in front of you. Yiqing Luo's cold voice was devoid of any emotion. She looked coldly at Pharaoh he, her eyes filled with murderous intent. Release the control of the scarlet flame. You. Pharaoh he cowered as he retreated backwards, turning his head to see Wolf Saint Art standing by the side. Quickly go up. Chapter 1645. Pharaoh he's face turned pale as he looked at Yiqing Luo's chest. When his gaze met the energy released by the profound Jade Heart, his expression changed as he turned to look at Wolf Saint Magic in shock. This is impossible. Wolf Saint Magic sneered. That laughter was filled with sarcasm. Quickly bring me away. Let's go. Pharaoh he panicked. The array was already destroyed, and he didn't have that much mental power to cast his spells to deal with Yiqing Luo. Moreover, his curse to the current Yiqing Luo had no effect at all. Her profound Jade Heart, it actually released a purple brilliance. Purple, what did it represent? That was the highest grade of the profound Jade Heart. Back then, when Yiqing Luo's profound Jade Heart was dug out and sent to the Dark Forces. Yiqing Luo's profound Jade Heart had also passed through his hands. He knew that Yiqing Luo's profound Jade Heart was a rare and extremely talented profound Jade Heart. But that was merely a blue jade grade. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple. In this lower realm, a blue jade grade profound heart jade was already considered a heaven-defying existence. Not to mention the highest grade purple jade. This Yiqing Luo, what kind of pervert was she? No wonder his lord tried all ways and means to obtain Yiqing Luo's profound Jade Heart, to obtain this vessel, which contained the profound Jade Heart. Purple Jade Grade Profound Jade Heart. Everyone in the world wanted it. Heh, what's the use of just knowing some spells and spells? At the crucial moment, you can't even protect your own life. Wolf Saint Magic ridiculed Pharaoh his eyes filled with ridicule. Pharaoh he's face turned pale. The pride and self-esteem in his heart made his expression filled with anger. But due to the current situation, he could only seek help from Wolf Saint Magic. Finally, he suppressed his anger. Wolf Saint Magic, today's mission's failure. You and I are both responsible. If you don't save me, you can't take on his lord's anger alone. What has the mission got to do with me? These people are not from Wolf Saint Magic's forces. Wolf Saint Technique laughed heartily as his gaze swept past the icy cold young lady whose eyes were filled with killing intent. He trash. Just stay here and enjoy Yi Ching Luo's wrath. Ha ha ha. He hugged the person in his arms tightly. His figure suddenly retreated. Then, he quickly moved toward a certain direction in the spirit formation. Yi Ching Luo lifted her eyelids. A cold glint, like a sharp blade, shot straight in the direction of the Wolf Saint Technique. Her cold eyes were filled with murderous intent. You still want to run after injuring my Shiju? A chilly voice, as though it was wrapped in frost, spat out from Yi Ching Luo's pink lips, word by word. She flipped her hand. The gourd flame fan raised a fire dragon in the palm of his hand. Then, her body followed the fire dragon like a spinning top. Under the Xian Qi released by the devouring flame fan, it continued to spin, charging straight at the Wolf Saint Technique with irresistible force. Wolf Saint Fa felt a chill run down his spine. He thought that with his speed, Yi Ching Luo wouldn't be able to find him. However, when that powerful dark force rushed towards him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Wolf Saint Technique then realized. The current Yi Ching Luo was really not the previous Yi Ching Luo. The current her was too decisive and ruthless. There was no hesitation in her every move. Direct and decisive. Ruthless and vicious. Bam! That powerful, profound energy landed with a loud bang. Wolf Saint Technique couldn't even catch his breath. Chapter 1646. The pressure behind Lang Xingfa's back caused his body to fall forward. Yi Ching Qian, who was in his arms, almost fell out. Wolf Saint Magic clenched his teeth tightly. He abruptly turned Yi Ching Qian's body to the same position as him. With a swoosh sound, Wolf Saint Magic's back was stuck to the ground, sweeping a long ditch. The ground had collapsed due to the destruction of the spirit assimilation array. There was sharp gravel everywhere. Wolf Saint Magic's back had swept out such a long line on the ground. The flesh on his back was probably badly mutilated. After the pressure from the impact dissipated, Wolf Saint Magic fell onto the ground powerlessly. Yi Ching Qian lay steadily on his body. His vision swept past Yi Ching Qian's face, as though he had confirmed that she was not injured. Then he slowly heaved a sigh of relief. The moment he heaved a sigh of relief, his chest suddenly felt stuffy. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. The expression on Wolf Saint Magic's face gradually turned sinister. He raised his head and stared angrily at Yi Ching Luo. Wolf Saint Magic is indeed infatuated. I can't help but be touched by Wolf Saint Magic's infatuation towards eldest sister. Yi Ching Luo's icy cold voice was filled with an eerie chill. Her lips curled as she revealed a cold smile. That frosty eyes were calm and cold. There was no hint of being touched at all. Wolf Saint Magic wanted to get up, but the sharp pain from his back made him suck in a breath of cold air. Hearing his painful groan, Yi Ching Luo tilted her head as her smile deepened. Is it painful? It's right if it's painful. What my brothers have suffered, you have to suffer 100 times more pain. She slowly walked towards the Holy Wolf Technique. Her footsteps were light and steady. The gravel on the ground made a sha-sha sound under the friction of her shoes. That sound was in Wolf Saint Magic's ears. It was like a grievous news demanding his life. She got closer. His heart constricted. This Yi Ching Luo's imposing manner was strong, and her entire body was covered in flames. It was not an aura that a sky-profound first-grade cultivator would have. Where on earth had gone wrong? Why did everything not go according to the original plan? Everything had deviated from the original track. Yi Qing Luo's smile bloomed on her lips. The powerful aura was getting more and more violent. The glowing flame fan in Xiao Qin's hand was also surrounded by red electric currents, continuously accumulating power. Immediately after, Yi Qing Luo's palm moved. That profound light directly attacked the Wolf Saint technique. His aura was like a rainbow, and he was as fast as lightning. The Wolf Saint technique wanted to dodge. However, he was carrying a person in his arms. The slightest movement of the muscles on his back was accompanied by an excruciating pain. There was no time to react at all, seeing that the dark force was about to land on his body. Suddenly, a murderous yin qi exploded on the Wolf Saint Law's body. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening tremor reverberated. Yi Qing Luo's strike had created a huge black hole on the ground. And on the ground, there was no sign of Wolf Saint Fa and Yi Qing Qian. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she recalled the yin qi which she sensed from the Wolf Saint technique earlier. His expression sank, and his eyes turned cold as he immediately looked in the direction of Pharaoh He. Sure enough, Pharaoh He was chanting a curse. His other hand rested on the Wolf Saint Law, who was riddled with scars. Yi Qing Luo realized something as her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Trying to escape, her footsteps expanded as she speedily flew nearer. But a burst of dense, profound yin qi wrapped the three of them tightly. A strong hurricane surged on the ground. In a split second, the three of them who were enveloped by the black qi disappeared from their original positions. It was the dark incantation again. Chapter 1647. Yi Qing Luo's heart was burning with rage. His eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. She clenched her fists tightly, and her expression was extremely cold. She wanted to kill Lang Xingfa. She wanted to kill Pharaoh Crane. Those who had harmed her brothers had to die. Lass. Just as Yi Qing Luo's mind was filled with intense, killing intent, Old Man Song's voice called back Yi Qing Luo's consciousness. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled slightly. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed coldly. Don't let hatred and anger blind you. Old Man Song's voice was solemn. Those who can pose a threat have already escaped. Now calm down and calm down. Calm down? How about you calm down? Her Shiju was still lying on the ground. Her hair was singed all over her body. Her brothers were covered in wounds of various sizes. All of this, it was all because of the dark forces. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh He left. Was she just going to let it go like this? No, impossible. No matter what, she couldn't let it go so easily. Wolf Saint Dharma, Pharaoh He, and Yi Qing Qian, all of them deserved to die. The chilling, killing intent surging in his heart continued to rise. Bit by bit, it eroded her sanity. Old Man Song was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. His words were unable to recall Yi Qing Luo's consciousness. If Yi Qing Luo was allowed to be corroded by hatred and fury, Yi Qing Luo would completely fall into a state of losing control. At that time, it was very likely that everyone in the barrier would be slaughtered. It didn't matter if he killed students from other academies. But if they hurt the people in the devil class. After Yi Qing Luo regained consciousness, she would probably not be able to recover from this setback for the rest of her life. At this time, DMO Xian, that kid, was actually not around. If DMO Xian was here, he would definitely have a way to wake Yi Qing Luo up. Where did the profound yin qi that controlled Yi Qing Luo come from? Why was he able to control Yi Qing Luo time and time again? Within the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song anxiously scurried all over the ground. Roar! Clang, clang! Suddenly, a loud and clear tiger roar came from the sky. Immediately after, the cries of Scarlet Flame could be heard. Yi Qing Luo's murderous eyes instantly shifted towards the horizon. Chi-Chi and Chi-Yin were already locked in combat. Scarlet Flame's sharp claws viciously scratched Chi-Chi's charred fur. Chi-Chi howled and struggled to break free from the flames. It was fully capable of resisting, but he couldn't use his sharp teeth to face Chi-Yin. Chi-Chi's struggling body was reflected in Yi Qing Luo's pupils. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted as the murderous intent in her eyes gradually dissipated. Chi-Chi. She furrowed her brows and leaped up into the air. The figure suddenly appeared in front of Qi Yin and Chi-Chi. With a flick of her wrist, the glowing flame fan condensed a ray of light. Before he could release it, he heard Chi-Chi let out a few soft whimpers. Yiqing Luo's hand movements suddenly froze. Chi-Chi could not bear for her to hurt Qi Yin. Even now, Qi Yin, under the control of the curse, it is covered with cuts and bruises. It was still unwilling to hurt Qi Yin. They were friends who had fought together since ancient times. Even if they were separated by tens of thousands of years, the feelings they had for each other in the past had not faded. Lass, Qi Yin has signed a soul contract with you. Its soul has completely signed a contract with yours. Use the contract to awaken Qi Yin. Old Man Song kept searching for a way in his mind and finally thought of a reliable way. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her charming eyes stared fixedly at Qi Yin for some time. Chapter 1648. The soul contract was the highest level of contracts signed by magical beasts, mirage beasts, sacred beasts, and humans. As a master, Yiqing Luo had the absolute right to use the soul contract to forcibly give orders to the contracted beasts, even sacred beasts. In front of the master who signed the soul contract, they had to obey the orders obediently. All along, although Yiqing Luo signed the soul contract with Chi-Chi, but she had never used the function of the soul contract. She didn't think so much for a while. Qi Yin still blocked the communication with her. Her consciousness couldn't touch Qi Yin's brainwaves at all. She couldn't communicate with Qi Yin at all. Girl, I will teach you how to forcibly awaken Qi Yin. Next, listen to my instructions, listening to Old Man Song's teaching step by step. Yiqing Luo stared at Qi Yin's blood-red eyes. The glower flame fan hooked. The sharp blade scratched her finger. A drop of blood dripped from her finger. She flicked her fingertips. That drop of blood flicked on Qi Yin's forehead. That drop of blood, in the shining red phoenix feather, left no trace at all. But the next second, Qi Yin's claws clutching Chi-Chi's fur suddenly loosened. From its mouth came a mournful cry. Roar, roar. Chi-Chi stabilized its body in pain, raised its tiger eyes, and looked nervously at Qi Yin. Yiqing Luo gave Chi-Chi a reassuring look. Immediately, staring at Qi Yin's red eyes, her voice was full of tension. Qi Yin, listen to my command. Stop the pollution of the flames. Clang, clang. Clang, 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 clang. Qi Yin screamed mournfully. The huge figure, like a running fire in the sky, constantly in the sky, hovering in pain. However, Yiqing Luo's voice was getting louder and louder. Every word was heavier than the last, and the force behind it was even heavier. Qi Yin's screams became more and more mournful. Chi-Chi remembered that the beast's eyes kept chasing Qi Yin's figure, until the speed of Qi Yin's hovering became slower and slower. Clang! Qi Yin's mouth issued a low cry. That scarlet beast eyes blinked and finally focused on Yiqing Luo. Ugly woman, what are you doing? A familiar tone, a tone that deserved a beating. Chi-Chi let out a low roar and rushed forward, rubbing his head against Qi Yin's body. F***CK. You. What the hell are you? My little white, how can you how? Qi Yin was first approached by a group of burnt things, and his face suddenly showed a look of disgust. After sensing Chi-Chi's aura, Qi Yin's eyes suddenly widened, especially after seeing the smell of burnt hair on Chi-Chi's body. The scarlet eyes of the beast were filled with disbelief. His aura was still lingering on Chi-Chi. To be able to burn Chi-Chi's fur to such a state, apart from its vermilion bird flames, no other beast, no one else could do this. It hurt Chi-Chi? But why didn't it have any memories? Scarlet flame, purify the pollution of the flames. A clear and cold voice with a hint of command. Qi Yin was not angry, but turned to look at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Raging flames? It actually used flames to pollute people's hearts? Listening to the sounds of fighting and killing from below, Qi Yin's vision looked towards the ground. The students from the various academies and Devil Class's students were fighting bitterly. Obviously, those students had been polluted by its flames. What on earth was going on? Chapter 1649. What you've done, Chi will tell you later. Yi Qing Luo's voice was as cold as ice. Now, purify everyone immediately. Yi Qing Luo's tone made Qi Yin extremely unhappy. But thinking that it had done so many things out of the blue, it didn't even know what it was doing. Qi Yin's arrogance weakened. Following that, it spread its wings. A raging flame spread across the entire area. Those 1,000 over students gradually regained their consciousness under the purification of the flame. All the students from various academies were in a dazed state. What are we doing? Pain, pain, pain. Who the hell hit me? It hurts. Devil Class. Are you looking for an internal strife? Why did you hit me for? Momentarily, the entire area was in an uproar. Hearing the students from various academies speaking up, Devil Class's students heaved a sigh of relief. If they continued to exhaust their energy, they really couldn't hold on any longer. Even if their bodies were made of iron, they were still human. F***K. What happened? Why did it turn into this state? What a disgusting blood stench. Why are there so many corpses on the ground? And they're all body parts. Is the flame nest going to collapse? I can't even stand properly. There's no place to land at all. The students who had regained consciousness looked at everything around them. One by one, the young faces revealed an astonished expression. To them, the bloody scene in front of them had already exceeded their imagination. Devil Class's students explained what had happened earlier in a concise manner. When the students from various academies heard that, they looked towards the circling red flame in the sky. They were unable to recall what had happened earlier. Looking at the ground, there were still several hundreds of students who had been knocked out. What the Devil Class students said was not far from the truth. It was all true. The students looked exhausted, and their bodies were filled with big and small injuries, as they felt increasingly guilty. If you feel sorry for us, then kill these people from the dark forces. A chilly voice, carrying an irresistible majesty, descended from the sky. Yi Qing Luo was like a noble queen, overlooking everything below her. Her devastatingly beautiful face was solemn and cold. Her charming eyes were filled with a cold glint. Just by looking at it, one would feel a chill down one's spine. The students of the various academies instinctively looked at the dozens of darkness enforcers and darkness protectors not far away, their faces filled with fear and dread. A holy technique and a pharaoh. Both of them had slipped away. As for them, small fries, they were thrown here. Sacred Wolf and Pharaoh, he could easily leave the barrier in this area. But they could not leave. If it was before, when these Dark Ones and Dark Protectors faced these more than 1,000 students, they couldn't help but tremble in fear. It would never be empty. If it had been someone else, they would have died. Even if another 1,000 people came, they wouldn't be afraid. However, among this group of people, there was a bunch of freakish students among freaks. There was an even more perverted commander. One must know that just now, more than 400 of them, as well as more than 100 Dark Guardians, were unable to gain any advantage against this group of students. Not to mention now, what are you afraid of? Just now, under the contamination of the vermilion bird's raging flames, their physical strength has long been exhausted. Aren't they just 700 or 800 students who haven't even grown their hair? We're not empty. The few Dark Protectors' words made the rest of the Dark Ones ignite their battle intent. What they said was true. They would die if they fought. They would also die if they didn't. Chapter 1650. The people from the Dark Forces raised the weapons in their hands as they fought against the students from various academies. 800 over students, although they had expended quite a bit of energy after being contaminated earlier. But after their minds were contaminated by the blazing flames. Right now, they were filled with hatred towards these dark forces who wanted to take away their lives and souls. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's icy cold words, they didn't have any fear at all. Looking at the dark forces, they were still arrogant and wanted to kill them. Each student was braver than the other. The entire area, which was surrounded by the array barrier, was filled with battle cries. The sky was filled with blood, and the thick stench of blood filled every corner of the air. After those students regained their senses, they saw the ground full of blood and corpses. By now, they were already immune to blood. Instead, it was the stench of blood. This stimulated the lofty sentiments in these youngsters' hearts. The reason why they entered the academy. The reason why they joined the academy exchange. The reason why they followed Master Gui Wu to the blazing flame nest. It was because they wanted to become strong. They wanted to possess absolute ability. This kind of massacre was something that they would have to experience in the future. Ugly woman, can you keep your gaze away? Qian's arrogance was totally unable to rise. Its red beast eyes weakly swept a glance at Yiqing Luo and immediately lowered its head in fear. Yiqing Luo's gaze was filled with chilling intent as it revealed a thick, malevolent aura. As though, the next moment, she was going to kill it. Qian leaned toward Chi-Chi's side as his voice became weaker. I know, this matter is indeed my fault. As a sacred beast, I have fallen into the dark forces trap. The next time I meet the person who controls me, I will definitely cut him into pieces to vent your anger. All right? However, Qian's words didn't get any response at all. Yiqing Luo's gaze was still as cold as ice. It was still the same, quietly staring at Qian. There was no emotion on her face, without any feelings. Even Chi-Chi, on seeing Yiqing Luo in this state, felt a little apprehensive. Roar, roar. Chi-Chi moaned softly. Yiqing Luo had no reaction at all. Qian's sharp mouth moved, but looking at Yiqing Luo's appearance, he stopped what he wanted to say. Little White, don't you think that ugly woman is a little weird? It lowered its voice and whispered into Chi-Chi's ear. Chi-Chi let out a soft roar. It felt the same way. It couldn't help but wonder. Was the master in front of it really its master? The color of blood filled her eyes. A sea of scarlet. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The blood splattered on her body. Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes trembled slightly. There was an inexplicable restlessness in her heart, as if it was urging her to do something. It seemed like he was urging her to kill everyone present. He enjoyed the pleasure of fresh blood brushing against his face. He enjoyed the pleasure of ending someone else's life and watching them beg for mercy under his hands. This kind of thinking made Yiqing Luo's mind even more chaotic. Subconsciously, there was a voice calling her name. There was a voice that kept waking her up. Tell her. Her way of thinking was wrong. She knew that this restlessness was wrong. She wanted to suppress the restlessness in her heart. But the more she suppressed it. Chapter 1651. Found it. Found it. Suddenly, Old Man Song's anxious voice sounded in her mind. Yiqing Luo forced herself to stay conscious. Found what? Old Man Song's voice was anxious and a bit excited, but more than that, it was worry and doubt. I saw the source of the profound yin qi in your body. The source of profound yin qi? These few words made Yiqing Luo's consciousness sober up a bit. She suppressed the restlessness in her heart and took a deep breath. Where is it? She knew the reason why her current mood was so abnormal. It was precisely because of the inexplicable, profound yin qi in her body that was causing mischief. As long as she knew the source of the profound yin qi in her body, she would remove that source. She would no longer be controlled by others. I investigated. The source of the profound yin qi is... Old Man Song paused and continued with some difficulty. Profound jade heart. Profound jade heart? Yiqing Luo's brows wrinkled. The source of the profound yin qi was her profound jade heart. Her profound jade heart had profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo's slender white hand pressed on her heart. She could clearly sense that the profound jade heart nurtured in her heart was constantly releasing a steady stream of profound energy. She didn't sense the slightest trace of profound yin qi. If the profound heart was on her profound jade heart, she should be able to sense it immediately. When I first investigated, I couldn't believe it either. Old Man Song sighed lightly, but the source of the profound yin qi is indeed from your profound jade heart. It was no wonder that once Yi Qing Luo released her strength, she would receive the erosion and control of the profound Yin Qi, precisely because, at the same time, when Yi Qing Luo released her strength, she needed to operate the profound Jade Heart's power, and the profound Jade Heart's power, once it exceeded a certain level, this would cause the thread of mysterious Yin energy hidden within the Xian Heart Jade to come out. Moreover, the profound Yin Qi hidden within the profound Jade Heart's technique was extremely brilliant. It was very likely that she used a dark curse to conceal the profound Yin Qi's aura. As Old Man Song explained his conjecture, he immediately continued. This old man's conjecture was also derived from your reaction today. Yi Qing Luo was now a sky profound first-grade cultivator. The profound energy in the profound Jade Heart was also extremely abundant. Because of this, the profound strength of the first grade of the sky profound realm was more or less able to suppress the profound Yin energy of the darkness curse arts. This led to a huge change in Yi Qing Luo's temperament. He faintly felt the urge to be controlled. However, he was able to retract his consciousness in time. He wasn't completely controlled by the mysterious Yin energy. However, even now, he was still able to suppress his control over the mysterious Yin Qi. But after a long time, after the outburst, it would be even more difficult to call back Yi Qing Luo's consciousness as compared to the previous control. But now, Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with an extremely intense, killing intent. It was because the battles between the students of the various academies and the dark forces had stirred up the profound Yin Qi. Girl, you must calm down. Think of a way to break open the enchantment and leave this place. Old Man Song warned her seriously. His life was no longer in danger. Yi Qing Luo no longer needed to forcefully release her profound grade and use her profound qi. Her profound heart jade gradually stabilized, and that surge of profound Yin Qi would once again disappear into Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade. As long as she left this bloody area, Yi Qing Luo's consciousness could always rely on her willpower to pull through. Dark curse arts. Yi Qing Luo muttered these 4 words in a low voice. Suddenly, her charming eyes flashed slightly. A wisp of radiance flashed past her eyes. Chapter 1652. Lass, are you thinking of... Old Man Song's voice tightened. No, this is too risky. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. Taking risks is to look forward to a better future. If she continued to passively accept the attacks and sneak attacks from the dark forces, she would definitely die. Sooner or later, she would fall into the hands of the dark forces. She was never a passive person who was controlled by others. Why not seize the opportunity? Turning passivity into initiative. This hidden danger could be solved in one go. In the future, everyone would be happy. Your current ability is not enough to go head-on with the dark forces. Old Man Song admitted that Yi Qing Luo's thinking was right. However, such thoughts had to be based on reality. What kind of place was the Underworld organization? Who were those people? That was a force that belonged to the lower realm, outside of the upper realm. It was a power that had been expelled by the heavenly Tao. Based on Yi Qing Luo's current ability, if she were to go head-on against the dark forces, it was like using an egg to smash a rock. Old Man Song, I understand your worries. Yi Qing Luo was very clear that this decision of hers was indeed a gamble with her life. If there were any accidents, it was very likely that she had died in the hands of the dark forces. But this is my only chance. The existence of the dark forces had always been a mystery. Even if it was a battle between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Organization, they had yet to find the real base of the dark forces. If Pharaoh, he was still nearby and used the dark curse technique to completely control her. She decided to beat him at his own game. If she pretended to be obsessed with sex, she would allow Pharaoh to bring her to the base camp of the dark forces. As long as he knew the exact location of the underground forces through the profound Phoenix Ring, she told DMO Xian the exact location. DMO Xian would be able to lead the Imperial Palace's disciples to attack the Dark Forces in one fell swoop. The Dark Forces had lost many people in the Fire Lair. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh, he were also heavily injured. At this moment, it was the easiest time for the Dark Forces to be defeated. As long as there were no accidents, they would definitely be able to annihilate the Dark Forces. This was a method that would solve everything once and for all. Yi Qing Luo had to try. You're acting recklessly. Have you ever thought about your brothers? Have you ever thought about DMO Xian? Old Man Song knew that once Yi Qing Luo had decided on something, it would be hard to change her mind. His heart was burning with anxiety, but he didn't know how to stop Yi Qing Luo. He could only pull out that group of people from the World Group and DMO Xian. Yi Qing Luo's gaze became even more resolute. It's precisely because I hope that everyone can be safe and sound and live well that I must think of a way to completely resolve this hidden danger. Every time, she would be passively attacked by the Dark Forces. Time and time again, she made the people around her risk their lives for her. She really didn't want to see such a thing happen again. Especially, she did not want to do something that she would regret for the rest of her life after being controlled by the mysterious In Chi. This time, she was able to forcefully suppress the agitation of the mysterious In Chi. But what about next time? Could she still be so lucky? Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to bet on this unknown possibility. Instead of worrying and being afraid, it would be better to settle this once and for all. Old Man Song let out a heavy sigh. This old man knew that girl. In the end, he still agreed. This old man more or less knows a little about dark spells. If you insist on taking the risk, this old man will help you. Yi Qing Luo's face was tainted with a smile. Immediately, she focused and recalled Qi Yin, and she drew back into the pet space. Chapter 1653. Yi Qing Luo's movements attracted the attention of the Devil Class's students. Long Yunjian immediately flew over as his azure blue eyes were filled with worry. Qing Luo. His words had just opened his mouth. An extremely piercingly cold wind brushed past his eyes. Yi Qing Luo's fingers were like claws as she struck towards Long Yunjian's face. Long Yunjian was stunned as he had yet to regain his senses. That palm had coincidentally landed on Long Yunjian's chest. It directly sent Long Yunjian flying with one palm strike. Devil Class and the others who were following closely behind held onto Long Yunjian as their faces were filled with astonishment. Qing Luo, what are you doing? Yi Qing Luo didn't reply them. Her clear and charming eyes were extremely icy cold. She looked at them coldly as her voice was hoarse and her words were unusually loud and clear. I want all of you to die. Long Yunjian's face turned pale. Those Devil Class's students' expressions also changed. Has Qing Luo's mind been contaminated by the vermilion bird's raging flames? What's wrong with Qing Luo? Right from the start, I felt that Madame Qing Luo was a little strange. She even hit the class monitor. Her mind must have been contaminated. Devil Class's students were filled with anxiety. Class monitor, what should we do? Vermilion bird is Madame Qing Luo's war pet. How can we awaken Madame Qing Luo? Long Yunjian, who had been struck by that palm, kept staring at the expressionless Yi Qing Luo, who was filled with murderous intent. Suddenly, his azure blue eyes flashed slightly. He raised his hand and stopped the Devil Class's students from asking questions. Long Yunjian's prestige as the class monitor had not diminished because of Yi Qing Luo's existence. He had just raised his hand. The Devil Class's students who were whispering behind him immediately shut their mouths. Stay further away from her. Long Yunjian's icy cold voice rang. Devil Class's students were all stunned. Right now, Yi Qing Luo obviously looked like something was wrong. Shouldn't they be thinking of ways to recall Yi Qing Luo's mind? Abandon Yi Qing Luo and stay further away from her? Wasn't this the meaning of abandoning Yi Qing Luo? Devil Class's students frowned as they couldn't listen to Long Yunjian's words and stay further away from Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's cold gaze swept past the group of students. Her pink lips curled up slightly. A cold arc blossomed on her face. revealing an extremely flirtatious yet murderous smile. Her palm wind moved, attacking towards Long Yunjan's direction once again. Retreat. Long Yunjan bellowed as he led the devil-class students to retreat quickly. At this moment, the students from the various academies who had finished dealing with the remaining dark forces were stunned when they saw this scene. It wasn't easy for him to survive in the face of death. Why was it Yi Qing Luo being contaminated and losing her rationality again? Yi Qing Luo's attack was still continuing. But every time, the devil class's students would coincidentally avoid it. After a few rounds of pursuit, Yi Qing Luo stopped her attacks. His cold eyes were filled with dense, killing intent. Die, all of you must die. That hoarse voice was extremely loud. The faces of the devil class students gradually turned pale. Listen to class monitor. Let's leave this place first. Yin Xiao took a look at Yi Qing Luo's chilly expression and looked at Long Yunjan. She clenched her teeth, not knowing what was going on with Yi Qing Luo. It was better to listen to Long Yunjan first and stay away from Yi Qing Luo. Otherwise, if Yi Qing Luo hurt any one of them, by the time Yi Qing Luo regained her consciousness, she would definitely be like Long Yunjan, continuing to feel guilty. Devil class's students hesitated for some time. In the end, they still left Yi Qing Luo's boundary. Chapter 1654. Haha. Yi Qing Luo has already been controlled by us dark forces. If we can't live, then all of you can forget about living too. Yi Qing Luo, that pervert, she will absolutely avenge us dark forces, killing all of you bunch of young lads. Ha ha ha. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by someone you trust? Those few people from the dark forces who were still alive saw Yi Qing Luo's state, and all of them ran towards her direction as though they were escaping for their lives. Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade used a dark secret method to seal the profound yin qi. The entire dark forces knew about this matter. At this moment, seeing Yi Qing Luo actually laid her hands on their own brothers, they knew. This was absolutely because of the profound yin qi in Yi Qing Luo's body. That also meant that Yi Qing Luo was now one of them. With Yi Qing Luo, that pervert around, this bunch of young lads would definitely die. But those few people from the dark forces had just dashed in front of Yi Qing Luo. They saw Yi Qing Luo's fingertips dancing. Like an excited spirit, a red glow flashed past her slender fingertips. The glower flame fan stirred up thousands of waves as it struck towards those few people from the dark forces. Those people had barely escaped from the siege of those students after experiencing a narrow escape from death. At this moment, all their thoughts were on Yi Qing Luo. Who would have expected that Yi Qing Luo would actually make a move against them? Those few people from the dark forces had yet to react. Bursts of powerful, profound energy had already landed on them. They were like numerous sharp blades that surged like the tide and devoured everything about them. They didn't even have time to make a sound. Those few people from the dark forces fell limply onto the ground. Blood spurted out and they lost their breath. The students stared at this scene as their faces alternated between green and white. They had clearly heard what the people from the Dark Coalition had just said. Yi Qing Luo had already been controlled by the dark forces. That meant to say, Yi Qing Luo would kill them. But why did Yi Qing Luo kill those people from the dark forces? Die. Die. All of you must die. That hoarse voice was monotonous and emotionless. Yi Qing Luo's eyes didn't have any radiance. His eyes were empty and cold as he stared forward. It seemed like he had really lost his mind. The faces of the students turned paler and paler. He wanted to escape, but there was a barrier set up here. They had no way out. Qing Luo. Devil class's students were filled with worry as they stared at Yi Qing Luo's expressionless face, feeling heartache. They were burning with anxiety. But there was no way to awaken Yi Qing Luo's consciousness. What should they do? What should he do? You can't do anything to your own brothers, even if you've already been controlled. Suddenly, a deep and cold voice filled with dense, murderous intent was heard from Yi Qing Luo's back. Just as the voice rang out, a figure appeared out of nowhere. That figure was extremely fast, bringing along an extremely turbulent, profound qi, he directly attacked in the direction of the Devil class students. Then let me personally deal with this group of people. As his voice fell, Devil class's students only felt a gust of cold wind brushing against their faces. Then, a terrifying aura came crashing down from the sky. Oh no! Get out of the way! Chapter 1655. Yin Xiao Yi immediately activated the power of her profound jade heart. Releasing all of her profound energy, she opened up a protective barrier. Huh! A mere earth profound practitioner dares to block this sacred technique? Wolf Saint technique sneered disdainfully, not putting Yin Xiao Yi's protective barrier at his eyes. The movements of his hands didn't stop at all. Thick, profound energy, swift and fierce attacks. Xiao Yi, a panicked voice reverberated through the earth. Immediately, a figure was seen, rushing over. Following that figure sprint, the surrounding air, suddenly, like flowing water, appeared with faint waves. Layer upon layer, slowly stack higher. Just as Wolf Saint Technique's attack fell, boom! That turbulent air, in a split second, turned into a huge wave, surging high up. The violent, profound energy revealed a terrifying power that made one's heart tremble. Ah! With a scream, Wolf Saint Technique spat out a mouthful of blood. His body, under that wave of air, flew backwards, landing heavily on the ground. Wolf Saint Technique rolled a few times on the ground, finally crashing into a huge rock. The wound on his back that hadn't healed yet, and a new injury, fresh blood, instantly dyed the ground under Wolf Saint Technique. But at this moment, no one paid attention to the direction of Wolf Saint Technique. Everyone's gaze was focused on the Devil class students. In front of the Devil class students, a youth dressed in a green and white uniform, tightly hugging a slender girl. Both arms tightly wrapped around her waist. That muscular body slightly trembled. His entire body was emitting a terrifying aura. Who was that? Students from the Devil class? The students of the various academies were filled with curiosity, and Yin Xiao Yi, who was tightly hugged at this moment, stiffened on the spot. Her body tensed up. Her breathing suddenly stopped. Between her nose lingered that familiar scent that made her about to cry. Xiao Jin. It's Xiao Jin. He's back. Back to her side. Both hands subconsciously wrapped around his waist. Bit by bit tightened, until her body completely rubbed into his embrace. Are you stupid? Whenever I'm not by your side, you do stupid things. However, this tenderness did not last for long. Yin Xiao Yi heard the man's angry voice. Xiao Jin pried Yin Xiao Yi's body apart. His eyes filled with rage as he glared at her fiercely. Who do you think you are? An impregnable fortress? You're only at the Earth Profound realm, and you want to use your own body to fight the Wolf Saint Technique head-on? The more he spoke, the more furious his voice became. The slender fingers on Yin Xiao Yi's shoulder gradually increased their strength. Yin Xiao Yi furrowed her brows in pain as she sucked in a breath of cold air. This pain also caused Yin Xiao Yi's consciousness to gradually regain clarity. His rebuke, she heard it all. He felt that it was extremely ridiculous. Yin Xiao Yi's heart, which had been agitated because of Xiao Jin's return, gradually calmed down and calmed down. Xiao Jin did not return to her side. Xiao Jin did not belong to her. Closing her eyes, the expression on Yin Xiao Yi's face had already recovered its usual calmness. Whether I'm stupid or not, and what I want to do, has nothing to do with you. She looked up and met Xiao Jin's eyes. Maybe the timing of his appearance was too coincidental. Or maybe the current backlight was too coincidental. Xiao Jin's unprepossessing face was reflected in Yin Xiao Yi's pupils. He actually appeared to be extremely tall and handsome. That deep contour faintly revealed a suffocating handsomeness. She was stunned. Chapter 1656. After a while, Yin Xiao Yi retracted the absent-mindedness in her eyes. She despised herself in her heart. Even at this moment, she still had feelings for Xiao Jin. Obviously, that face totally did not fit her aesthetic standards. Obviously, she had already decided from the bottom of her heart not to have feelings for him. But the moment she saw Xiao Jin, her heart that had been quiet for a long time, messed up, completely messed up. Ever since that day, when Xiao Jin saw Shi Shanglan's investigation information, he was alone, as though he had vanished from the face of the earth. He left just like that. Had he ever thought about her feelings? Had he ever thought about the feelings of the students in Devil class? Even in the flaming lair, such a dangerous place. He had never appeared. Until now, when he finally appeared here. So, sorry. Xiao Jin looked at that pair of calm, beautiful eyes, and a dull pain surged from the bottom of his heart. His reprimanding expression, the anger in his eyes, suddenly disappeared. His hands froze. He quickly let go of Yin Xiaoyi's waist. Then he took a few steps back, widening the distance between them. When Xiao Jin's apology fell into Yin Xiaoyi's ears, it was like a sharp needle, fiercely stabbing into her heart. He couldn't wait to leave her side, not daring to have any contact with her. It was more like he was mocking her feelings for him, mocking that she hadn't fallen for him. She was really a fool, a complete and utter fool. This man, he had never loved you from the start. Why bother? Really, why did you have to do this? Closing her eyes, she forced the tears that welled up in her eyes down. Yin Xiaoyi's breathing gradually calmed down. Following that, she opened her eyes again, her gaze calm. Why are you here? A large number of people from the dark forces are already rushing towards this direction. I followed the Overlord here. Xiao Jin clenched his fists, trying his best to make his voice sound calm. He couldn't show a little. His heart ached because of Yin Xiaoyi's coldness. Yin Xiaoyi's alienation towards him. Wasn't this the result he wanted? He took a deep breath softly. Let's leave the flaming lair first. Not only this place, there are arrays set up. The entire flaming lair has signs of arrays. Dizun, Yin Xiaoyi's eyes lit up. Now is not the time to worry about love affairs. Yiqing Luo had yet to regain her senses. The Overlord was here, and he would definitely be able to awaken Yiqing Luo. Yin Xiao erased her hand and pushed Xiao Jin away. His gaze swept across the surroundings. Sure enough, they saw a man in shimmering purple clothes, who looked like a banished immortal, walking over quickly. DMO Xian was extremely fast. Without any pause, he headed straight towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But before he was able to stretch out his hand and pull Yiqing Luo into his embrace, when he met with Yiqing Luo's chilly eyes, his footsteps slowly came to a halt. He and Yiqing Luo stood face to face. Their eyes met. No one spoke. Master Dizun, Qing Luo has lost her senses, and only you can wake her up. Yin Xiaoyi said anxiously. The following words were stuck in his throat. She saw that behind DMO Xian, there was a jade-green figure following closely behind. Wind chimes. Feng Ling was actually following beside DMO Xian, recalling that not long ago, this Feng Ling brought along the Imperial Palace's granny to kill Yiqing Luo. Yin Xiao, he was extremely hostile towards Feng Ling, the enchantment here. Only Feng Ling can break it. DMO Xian's gaze was still on Yiqing Luo. Yin Xiaoyi blinked. The Overlord was explaining to her. Chapter 1657. Hearing that extremely calm explanation, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. The cold glint in her eyes wavered for a moment. By her ears, DMO Xian's explanation seemed to be reverberating. He directly called Feng Ling by her name. It wasn't like before, calling her Xiao Ling intimately. Was it because the reason why the Imperial Palace's granny wanted to kill her? This sweet throbbing didn't last for too long. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly thumped. Xian, why was he here? He was here. Would he stop her plan? Xian definitely wouldn't bear for her to take the risk. If he knew her decision, he would definitely stop her. No, no way. She couldn't let Xian see her abnormality. Overlord, those unimportant people are not important. What's important is Yin Xiaoyi's vision returned to Yiqing Luo. The Dark Forces said that Qing Luo had already been controlled by the Dark Forces. If we don't wake her up, we won't be able to control her. Hearing Yin Xiaoyi's anxious words, Yiqing Luo had a feeling of F***ing that husky. She wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She knew that Yin Xiao, he was worried about her. Worried from the bottom of her bones. But could she not let DMO Xian put his attention on her at this moment? She couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. Just at this moment, Gui Wu, Zhou Mo, and 100 over elders from the main academy rushed over. Seeing the bloody scene and the various academy's students covered in blood, they all had a fright. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame nest fell into chaos. This was the chance. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep look at DMO Xian's direction. Suddenly, she turned around and leapt. That slender figure swiftly merged into the air and disappeared. Devil Class's students chased up to her. Madam Qing Luo, you won't be able to catch up. Stay here and cooperate with the main academy's investigation. DMO Xian's long peach blossom eyes squinted slightly. A chilly intent flashed in his eyes. I'll go. His words had just ended when his sleeve was tugged by someone. Feng Ling's timid face appeared in his eyes. Brother D, Her words had yet to leave her mouth. DMO Xian had already flung Feng Ling's hand away in extreme disgust. There was a cold glint in his eyes. Feng Ling, there are many things that I don't say, but it doesn't mean that I don't know. Your aura is on the dark forces barrier. You are the one who set it up. Wendling's face turned pale. Her delicate body trembled slightly. Beiyuan. DMO Xian's voice was tense and cold. A black figure appeared from the darkness. Tang Beiyuan stood respectfully beside DMO Xian. Bring Feng Ling back to the Imperial Palace and guard her strictly. Without my orders, no one is allowed to get close to her, DMO Xian said coldly. After a pause, his gaze turned slightly cold. Including Grandma. Yes. Tang Beiyuan's expression was cold and stern. Once he said that one word, he suddenly brought out a chain from his sleeves, and without another word, he bound Feng Ling tightly. Those were profound ice shackles. It was a chain made of indestructible ice. There was no way to untie this chain at all. Feng Ling immediately panicked. With a sobbing tone, she shouted pitifully, Brother D, but Tang Beiyuan didn't give Feng Ling a chance to continue speaking. Holding the end of the chain, she hung Feng Ling and flew out of the blazing flame nest. Chapter 1658. Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, she was already at least 1,000 meters away from that area. She concealed her presence and stopped in her tracks. She knew that DMO Xian would definitely chase up to her. She had to get Pharaoh He to bring her to the Dark Force's main camp before DMO Xian chased up to her. Her guess was indeed right. Pharaoh He and Wolf Saint Technique had just used the Dark Curse to escape from her line of sight. But they didn't go far. Wolf Saint Technique's coincidental appearance. It confirmed her guess. She pretended to be controlled by the profound Yin Qi and lost her mind. She intentionally made a move on the Devil Class's students. It was to let Pharaoh He who was hiding in the dark know that she was indeed controlled by the profound Yin Qi. Earlier, Wolf Saint Technique's appearance. It was probably to test her. If she wasn't affected by the profound Yin Qi, she definitely wouldn't let Wolf Saint Technique hurt the Devil Class's students. If she stopped it, Pharaoh He would definitely use the same curse to bring Wolf Saint Technique away. Luckily, DMO Xian and Gui Wu rushed over in time. Before she made a move, they stopped Wolf Saint Technique's attack. This was considered as God approving of her plan. Yiqing Luo released her senses to the maximum as she carefully sensed the movements in the surroundings. She remembered. The direction where Pharaoh He used his curse to bring Wolf Saint Technique away was this direction. Earlier, after Wolf Saint Technique was sent flying by Qiao Jin, he took the opportunity to escape in this direction. The people from the Dark Forces were definitely here. In the dark, two pairs of eyes were staring unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo, who was wandering around in the dense forest. Wolf Saint Technique's face was extremely pale due to excessive blood loss. Yiqing Luo, that little slut is sinister and cunning. Are you sure? She is really controlled by your Pharaoh's secret technique? Pharaoh He shot a disdainful glance at Wolf Saint Technique. Of course. The secret technique which I used was personally imparted by his lordship. There's absolutely no possibility of any accident. Eh, isn't the spirit assimilating array still destroyed? Wolf Saint technique snorted in disdain. Pharaoh's face sunk. This pharaoh will make you convinced. Saying that, he gathered his mental power and formed a hand seal as he stared at Yi Qing Luo's figure, spitting out one obscure curse after another. There's movement. The minute Pharaoh's mental energy appeared, Yi Qing Luo acutely sensed the fluctuation in the air. Her expression instantly turned solemn. Just as he was thinking of following the ripples in the air to search for Pharaoh's location, Old Man Song's voice immediately sounded in her mind. Lass, Pharaoh, he is testing you. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she searched for the fluctuation in the air and stopped her counter-detection of Pharaoh's position. Maintain your murderous state and be a bit crazier, Old Man Song reminded. Yi Qing Luo's reaction was extremely quick. Pharaoh, he was hiding in the dark and wanted to use a secret technique to test if her profound heart jade had really been contaminated by the profound yin qi. She stopped in her tracks. His entire body suddenly released an extremely strong, murderous aura. A pair of murderous eyes fiercely swept across the surroundings. She raised her hands, clenched fists, and swung at the air. It seemed extremely crazy. Kill. I want to kill him. Kill all of you. Kill all of you. Yi Qing Luo was like a headless fly, spinning crazily on the same spot. Pharaoh, he who was in the dark, saw Yi Qing Luo's crazy performance and glanced at Wolf Saint technique complacently. How is it? Are you convinced? Wolf Saint technique pursed his lips tightly. Chapter 1659. Yi Qing Luo's heart was on the verge of collapsing. In order to sneak into the dark forces, she really put in a lot of effort. She could even act the role of a crazy lady. This acting skill was comparable to those movie queens. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but praise herself. Just as Yi Qing Luo was cursing in her heart, her face was still maintaining a crazy state. Suddenly, her ears twitched. Her heart constricted. It was Xian. He had indeed caught up. Damn Pharaoh, where on earth were they hiding at? She had already acted so well, but still refused to show herself. If Mo Xian discovered her, her plan to sneak into the dark forces would fail. Perhaps the heavens had heard Yi Qing Luo's wailing. Or perhaps Pharaoh, he had also sensed Mo Xian's approach. Just as Mo Xian's presence was getting closer, Yi Qing Luo only felt her body being sucked towards a direction by an extremely strong suction force. Following that, she was grabbed tightly by a strong palm. A thick and nauseating profound yin qi lingered around her nose. Yi Qing Luo's eyes shone. It was Pharaoh he. You really pulled this slut over. Wolf Saint Magic's tone didn't conceal his disgust towards Yi Qing Luo. Pharaoh, he slanted a glance at him sarcastically. Only trash like you would worry about this and that. This Pharaoh's secret method has never failed before. The Holy Wolf technique was just lip service. In his heart, he already believed it a little. He moved his mouth and finally spat out a few words. Let's go back. Pharaoh, he didn't continue arguing with Wolf Saint Magic. His fingers formed a hand seal as he swiftly recited a string of incantations. Yi Qing Luo's four limbs were weak as she hung on Pharaoh's hand. She suddenly felt her body shaking violently. Her vision turned black. When there was light again, Yi Qing Luo discovered that she was already at the entrance of a huge palace. At the entrance of the palace, two guards dressed in black cloaks immediately bowed respectfully when they saw them. Wolf Saint Magic, Pharaoh he. And they had just returned to the Dark Force's old nest. Pharaoh, he casually threw the heavily injured Wolf Saint Law to the ground. The two dark guards had long been accustomed to the open and secret fights between the Pharaoh and the elders. One of them stepped forward and helped the wolf up. Go get a doctor. Wolf Saint Law was quickly carried away. Whereas Yi Qing Luo was dragged by Pharaoh, as they walked directly into this luxurious palace. As one of the four great pharaohs of the Dark Faction, Pharaoh, he enjoyed great prestige in the Dark Faction. Along the way, they greeted Pharaoh Crane respectfully. No one even placed their sights on Yi Qing Luo. After walking for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they finally stopped in front of a courtyard. Yi Qing Luo looked at the signboard on the courtyard. A row of words were outlined in black light. Crane Palace. Crane Palace? In other words, this was Pharaoh He's palace? Yi Qing Luo's vision had memorized all the details of the palace's surroundings into her mind. Perhaps it was because he was too confident in his secret technique. Pharaoh, he didn't doubt Yi Qing Luo at all. He shut Yi Qing Luo in a secluded little room in the Crane Palace and used a curse to lock the door tightly before leaving in a hurry. Dark Forces territory. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to let her guard down just because Pharaoh he had left. Who knew if Pharaoh he was trying to test her again? Yi Qing Luo had been on high alert, maintaining the state of being controlled by him. Her nerves were stretched taut, not daring to relax. Chapter 1660. Yi Qing Luo calculated the time in her heart. Close to 6 hours had passed. It should be nighttime now. She didn't know if it was because of the curse that Pharaoh he had set on the door. Not a single sound could be heard from the surroundings of this small room. The surrounding was so quiet that it was a little scary. Yi Qing Luo had been maintaining a battle state in the blazing flame nest for this period of time. Yi Qing Luo was already mentally exhausted. After a long time, Yi Qing Luo felt her eyelids getting heavier. Not long after, she fell into a deep sleep. But after Yi Qing Luo fell into a deep sleep, it was just a few breaths' time, only to see the tightly shut door slowly opening. The person who entered the room was an extremely beautiful lady. That lady's vision was immediately fixed on the young lady's face who was sitting by the bed with her eyes closed. After seeing the young lady's stunning face clearly, the lady's pupils shot out a biting cold hatred. Yi Qing Luo, I die, don't hurt my puppet. Pharaoh he followed closely behind and stood in front of the beautiful lady. He held the lady's soft and fair hand as he stared fiercely at the person at the door, Lang Wastrel. It said that this old man's secret art will absolutely not have any problems. Why must you waste my knockout drug? You only know how to be suspicious all day. No wonder you're unable to break through to the profound grade. Wolf Saint Magic sat on a wooden wheeled chair, and behind him was a black-robed, slightly pale-looking Yi Qing Qian. Wolf Saint Magic entered the room, and his gaze fell onto Yi Qing Luo. After ascertaining that Yi Qing Luo had indeed fallen into a deep sleep, Wolf Saint Magic then raised his malicious eyes and looked coldly at Pharaoh he. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's because of your arrogance that led to the failure of this mission. Isn't the failure all because of you? Pharaoh he harumphed coldly. If it wasn't for that troublemaker, how would the spirit assimilation array be destroyed? Yi Qing Qian was criticized, and her body shrank slightly as she lowered her eyelids, not daring to say a word. Wolf Saint Magic patted the back of her hand lightly as his gaze turned cold. The spirit assimilation array was destroyed because there's a problem with your elder's ability. Just one Yi Qing Luo completely messed up the plan which we had prepared for several months. You, Pharaoh, he was exasperated. He raised his hand and was about to rush forward to beat the Wolf Saint technique. All right, how old are the two of you? Every time you see each other, you won't let go. Are we still going to talk about business? The butterfly saintess couldn't take it anymore. She frowned, and her beautiful face was filled with annoyance. The butterfly's sacred technique shook off Pharaoh he's hand and walked out of the room while swaying her slender waist. Pharaoh he fiercely glared at Holy Wolf, then immediately put on a smile and followed behind Holy Butterfly. Good. I'll die. I won't argue with that old man. Let's talk business. Wolf Saint Technique, who was still in a room, narrowed his malicious eyes as his gaze stopped on Yi Qing Luo for some time. He then lightly patted her hand. Let's go. Yi Qing Qian responded obediently. As she pushed the Wolf Saint Technique away, Yi Qing Qian glanced sideways at Yi Qing Luo's direction. In her beautiful eyes, there was a trace of hatred and ruthlessness. She pushed the holy wolf out of the room. The door slowly closed again. In the room, it was silent once again. After a moment of silence, The young lady, who was originally leaning against the side of the bed and in deep sleep, her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Tightly, she opened her eyes.